act is here to serve. And I know some of y'all are mad because I did break the 4-day streak. I did. I admit it. Okay? I admit it. Diddy's not admitting shit, but I admit it. I actually did admit some shit. I'm going to be moving around a little bit. So we hopefully will... Wait. Did this not turn on? What's going on? All right, chat. Am I tripping? Give me 1 second. Are we not live on YouTube? Oh, boy. Rough morning. No, it's not rough morning. We're good. We're good today. We're good today, chat. Are we good? We good. Yo, I drank this last night. This shit's hitting. This is the Rocks tequila. I'm not even doing a promo. It's called Tremana. This should be hitting. You know, everybody is on Reposado. There's something better than Reposado. It's called Añejo. So, like, Reposado is so the idea behind tequila is that Blanco, Reposado, and Añejo is 3 steps up. Reposado means how long the fucking whatever fruits or whatever they take to make the shit was like sitting there. I don't know what the fuck, but Añejo is like even more than that. But I don't know if it gets you drunker. I don't know. But 3 shots of this shit, and 3 shots is like light work for me. But holy, but I was drinking last night. Anyway, all right. Welcome, my people. All right, let's get into it. We are on Verdict Watch. We're on Verdict Watch. If you don't know, that we are covering today USA versus Sean P. Diddy Combs. This is a indictment that came down in September 12th, 2024. Let me tweet this out as well. I want everybody up in here. How are we going to do this? Here we go. By the way, happy Monday. Yo, I actually lost track of dates. I thought yesterday was Saturday. Chat. Okay. So let me give y'all some updates, and then we will get all the way into everything you guys want to get to, okay? First and foremost, welcome to everybody on Kick. Shout out to my people on Kick. R Block, I still see y'all in the building. R Block, let me tell you, R Block is the trenches. They ain't bending, they ain't folding. They're holding it down over there. Shout out to my people over at the Academy. Let me load up the chat real quick. Here we go. We do expect to get a verdict in the next few days. Okay? We expect to get a verdict in the next few days. I should probably also post this on Instagram, right? Yeah, I was trying not to post it on Instagram, but we should post it on Instagram. Hold on, chat. Hold on. Okay. Just give me 1 second. And I'll give y'all some procedural stuff, some updates, and then we will move on. All right, I'm actually even posting to the main Instagram, which I never do, honestly. You know what's funny? I treat my platform so different and weird. The biggest platform which I like have record-breaking numbers on, I never post on about streams. Because I still see streams as underground, kind of, you know? I still see it as that. Okay. And then let me post it on my personal Instagram. I would hope if you follow me on stream, you follow my personal Instagram. Okay, perfect. All right, cool. Okay. Not the best posting, but it'll be fine. Okay, so we're gonna hop into it. So the judge is giving jury instructions this morning, some jury instructions, and then they're gonna do deliberation. Okay, deliberation. I anticipate that it would be highly unlikely that there's a verdict today, but if there is a verdict today, I think Diddy walks. Okay. That's because the case has been so muddied with people. We sat here and went through every damn day, and we're like, is this a motherfucking case of domestic violence, or man, some of these hoes was going? So we don't know. Again, it's not a clear-cut case, right? So in a case like this, in a RICO, when you're proving a lot of things, oh, did he blow up Kid Cudi car? We don't have full evidence that he blew up Kid Cudi car, but he probably did. If a verdict comes back too quick, it's gonna fuck Diddy over. No, it's gonna fuck the prosecutors over. So it's gonna be good for Diddy. That means the jury has sat there and said, y'all been capping for too long for us to send this man to jail. Y'all been capping this entire, I believe the trial was, they say 6 weeks, but I feel like it was 7. 7 weeks? Y'all been capping this whole time. I'm good. So if a verdict comes back today, I'm expecting all acquittals across the board. Even though I have predicted that Diddy's going to get convicted of 2 of 5, there's no way to defend the fact that he was hiring sex workers. I think the 2 prostitution charge he'll get convicted of. The sex trafficking charge of Jane Doe, I think he's going to be acquitted of. The sex trafficking charge of Cassie Ventura, I think that's going to be a close one, but I think he can get acquitted on that. I think definitely, I won't say definitely because I never say definite with a RICO, but I think the RICO, it's a real stretch. It's a real stretch. You know, jury instructions today is going to matter because they have to explain to the jury or all the jurors, what does it take to actually get a conviction for a RICO charge? Remember, in a RICO, you need a few things. It has to be a conspiracy. What is a conspiracy? A conspiracy means there's a agreement that's known among the co-conspirators to commit a crime. Okay? Now, the prosecutors out of SDNY has muddied that. They'd be like, it's still a RICO even if people were doing things unknowing that they were helping a crime being committed. This is where the judge comes in because everybody's going to lean to their way. Like, the Diddy's team is like, no, this is domestic violence. The other team's like, nah, this is full-on RICO. The judge has to instruct the jury on what the fuck these charges mean. So a RICO, from what I've done some research, it feels like they need to know that a crime was being committed. They need to know, okay? Now, here's the thing, and this is the out for the government. They're not saying, they're cool to say that the assistants weren't co-conspirators. So any co-conspirator has to be knowledgeable of the crime. They're cool to say that the assistants weren't co-conspirators or the escorts. They're down to say, you know what they're saying? KK, D-Rock, and essentially the security team are the co-conspirators. None that have shown up in this case. This is why it's problematic. Y'all are claiming this is a RICO, but you didn't charge none of the co-conspirators as we know now. They might be under seal. We don't know. So they got to explain that, and then they got to explain all these predicate acts, right? You know, again, in a RICO, you need 2 of them to convict someone for racketeering under the RICO Act, which is Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act, which means you need, and we also did find some information which I verified, so the prosecutors are right. You actually don't need two different things. It could be 2 of the same things. If you kidnap someone twice, yeah, it's still kidnapping, but it's 2 instances. So, for example, they accuse Diddy of kidnapping people like 2 or 3 times, right? They accuse him of kidnapping Capricorn Clark, driving to Kid Cudi's house, accuse him of kidnapping Mia, bringing her to a warehouse to be interrogated, accuse him of kidnapping Cassie, bringing her to London hotel that she could recover from her injuries. Those are 3 instances. So if they believe that 2 of those is true, beyond a reasonable doubt, and they vote, yeah, those 2 things are true, that is RICO, right? Now, again, that's the predicate offenses side. Right? You got to remember, they got to have an enterprise. It has to be a ongoing thing. Has it been consistent? Is there a pattern? These things, I believe the judge will explain. Or it's going to be in a pamphlet, but I think they'll explain it. Okay. So let's get a little bit, okay. So we're going to get into what's going on in court immediately, or shortly, actually. Give me a second. I do want to say this. Number 1, first and foremost. Oh, you want a little tidbit? I'll give you a little. It's a teaser, but not really. Wait, what the fuck is this? Where's my chat? Where's the chat? I just opened it up. Is it this? No. Give me a second. Give me a second. Wow. Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Bet. Go here. Go here. Go here. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to pull up the chat. But I do have like 2 announcements to make, and then we'll hop right into it. No announcements. It's not even an announcement. Just kind of updates, I guess. Announcement seems too formal. Okay, great. I do have the Academy. Of the Academy. Yes. Okay, give me 1 second. By the way, did y'all see 50 Cent? Yo, 50 is bothered by this, man. I love Fifth, but he is. Like you could let me tell you this. What 50 won't say is that some of the details of this case attacks you as a man at your very foundation. Okay, we're gonna get to it though. All right, cool. All right, we're on here now. Y'all gonna have to bear with me today. Just remember, I'm laying out today. We're on verdict watch. Okay, so being on verdict watch today, we're gonna get the judge who's gonna address everyone, and then we're gonna get into the deliberation period. There's not a counter, a timer, or anything on that. It's either, obviously, I know the jury's going to go to like 5 today, so I'm going to stay on to try to make content during that time. Some of this stuff might get repetitive. So I've tried to do a few things to make sure it doesn't get too repetitive, and I'll say this. Today, we have for the first time Lauren Conlon. Me and her, we're going to meet in person. We've never met. We're going to meet in person today. So me and her will sit, talk about the case while the jury's being deliberating. We'll sit, talk about the case, go over everything she saw. All you guys' questions. This is someone who was actually in court. We're going to go over it, okay? Also, upcoming this week, I hate to spoil it, but it will happen. Me and Unc will be sitting in person as well. So a lot of the people who we trusted with the coverage of this is a very interesting coverage. I thank all of them for showing me appreciation because we showed them appreciation with lending our platform, our visibility to them, and they gave us amazing work. We're going to be trying to sit with them and also kind of really flush out some of these things. These people were in court. They were there every single day watching everything. We want to see and be able to question them like, okay, what it is and what it isn't, right? The verdict could come at any time. It could come at any time. And I'm excited for all of those, okay? But today we're going to have Lauren Conlon on. And by the way, if we get a verdict before, we're still going to, me and Unc, we got to chop it up. Me and Unc got to chop it up. That's a fact. Me and Unc got to chop it up. That's a fact. Right? So we're doing that now. I'm talking to Unc right now. We're going to figure this out. Okay. I know Unc is Unc because Unc texts me. Unc definitely got like an Android. Like, I texted Unc, this shit's so green. And he texts me back, and I'm like, green? But I don't know. Maybe it ain't turned blue yet. Maybe it's going to turn blue. But that's Unc's. Anyway, welcome. 2 things. So, all right. So we're doing a few IRL things, and I want to make, this waiting period, which we don't know how long it'll be. I want to make it good. Second of all, and I was going to save this for later, but chat, I have to tell y'all, I want to let y'all know we're in a fight. And this is why, I love y'all, but I need y'all. I think we're in a fight. I don't know if we're in a fight. I think we're in a fight right now. The behemoth that I told you I did not want to squabble with is starting to posture. This is like, when you see 2 nations, you ever heard be like, yo, they're driving they're driving their warships close to the line where they shouldn't cross. And you're like, what? Be like, yeah, this could be World War V. You're like, huh? I'm telling you, it's about to happen. I don't think it will happen, but I want to be very, very clear. A few things have happened over this last weekend, and I'm like, hold on now. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Rock. Rock Nation. As I said, I told you about all their tactics. I told you I don't want to talk about them. I told you y'all favorite podcasters and other people, they either get money from them, love them, or just ignore the fuck out of them. And that they specifically target people who Exactly. So I want to be honest with you. Some weird shit happened over this weekend. I work with Meta. They're a partner of ours. You know, we're a media company. We do a lot of things. I work with Meta, Facebook, Instagram, right? And we have a good relationship with them. So usually when things come down the pipeline, they'll give us an early warning. And they came to me this weekend, and you know, corporate people don't really work weekends, but they came to me and they said, we have a lot of filings against you for Rock Nation. I'm giving it all the way up. This is why I keep telling all y'all niggas, Tory, take your time in jail. The rest of y'all niggas who Rock Nation is going against, just take your losses and go. My Meta rep comes to me and says, Rock Nation done filed a shit ton of shit against you. And we're going to give you the courtesy. I'm not going to give you all the detail because they gave me a huge break. It says, we want you could remediate this before action is taken. They gave me really heads up. And I'm like, okay. And they sent me a whole bunch of stuff that had to do with my Facebook business pages on my business page over there, Academics TV, and also the personal page over there. And for even both pages on Instagram. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is confusing. And I want to be very honest. And this is why I keep telling y'all, Rock Nation ain't for us, brother. So this is the notice. So other than speaking with my rep, they did send me a notice. But I like to be really transparent with motherfuckers, right? So this is the notice right here. They removed some content from Instagram. You see it. It says Rock Nation, right? This was the Pusha T post. They're saying that this Kendrick verse got cut from Pusha T's album. Now it's on the Clips project. Whatever, right? So the Clips, yo, chat, didn't I tell y'all that everything from Pusha T I've been getting from a PR person working Pusha T shit? I'm not finding it. I'm not illegally using it. They're sending shit to me. Yo, this is Pusha T's rollout. We want to do A, B, C, and D. Yo, it would be big if you posted the Kendrick verse. That's why when I told you what's the dude named Chike or whatever his name is, I said, bro, the PR sent it to me. Their PR is sending it to me. I posted it. Clearly, this is what happened, chat. I go on stream and I tell y'all, I'm going to tell y'all the truth. I'm like, yeah, Rock Nation. Yo, this is not this is a rollout. They're clearly upset with not only what I've said at Rock Nation, but also I'm going to pull the veil down and tell you this ain't some random shit Pusha T has and Rock Nation's doing the rollout of a lifetime. The same content they sent me, they struck. So I even talked to my Meta people. I said, you know, this content was sent to me by them. Now, not Rock Nation directly, but someone who's working. It's a third party that's working. They're working PR for the Clips, who is on Rock Nation. They send me to put on my Instagram, and because they don't like what I said, they fucking IP claimed it. Come on now, chat. Come on now, chat. Come on. I keep telling y'all about Rock Nation. And again, I really want no smoke with them, but I don't know who to really. And I think it's also the Desiree Perez thing. We covered her daughter saying some things about her, and she doesn't like that either. Now, I'm going to give, because I understand how conglomerates work in this, I'm going to offer an olive branch. And the only reason I'm bringing this public is because I used to have a relationship with certain people that worked at Rock Nation, no one high up. And after a while, it ceased. And I remember one of the last things also being the Meek stuff. Like, I think Meek barked on them because they used to do promo through me. And they paid me like 20 grand out of Meek's budget. And I was laughing. I was like, yo, I thought Meek hated me. Paid me 20 grand. I don't care. Anyway, so I think when I said that, they stopped fucking with me. They did. So I cut off my nose to spite my face, 100%. Which I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, brother, you know what I mean? You're not going to talk this big shit to me and me not say the truth to the people. You can't be saying all this shit when you're paying me. Like, you pay me too, my nigga. Or I get paid out of your budget. Now, granted, Meek didn't really probably. That's when Dream Chaser Records was over there. Meek probably didn't approve it, like artists don't approve shit like that. But they thought it was cool. And Meek probably was like, what? He probably barked to them and they stopped. We haven't talked since then. All good. I'm now again at the point to try to engage with Rock Nation in maybe in a civil discussion, because I feel like they believe I'm one of the entities. Like Milagros, they just sued her. They got her out of the way. If you're not with their program, they sue you or shut you down. And I think what they're doing with me, they're doing a lot of posturing. It's not full-on war, posturing. Because truth be told, well, Met already helped me with this, but I'm going to go back through the back channels of how I got the video and say, hey, listen, why did your client submit a copyright claim for something that you gave me? Like, I have it in text. You gave this to me. So this will be cleared up, but the mere fact of submitting this is posturing. It's kind of almost trying to, it's kind of like trying to keep you in check, and I don't like that type of shit. So we're going to have to come to some type of cohesion where I don't know who I need to talk to over there, whether it's Desiree or whoever the hell else. One thing I won't compromise on is my voice being stifled or being quieted, or you can't control my opinion about anything having to do with Rock Nation or anything else. And I'm not here to try to make y'all look bad or whatever the case. I'm not trying to be slanderous, but I want to be truthful to what I know and I believe is truthful. But I think me and them were kind of getting close, because I'm telling you, this weekend they hit me. Meta hit me, and they said, what's going on? Rock Nation has filed several claims against you, and it's not only through Instagram. It's on Facebook as well. So if anyone over there at Rock Nation hears this and y'all could clip it, I would love to engage y'all in a civil conversation, unless y'all don't want to do civil, and that's okay as well. That's okay as well. I'm going to take this to mean that this is one of them shots that work with somebody else. But, thankfully, as much as I'm not liked in hip hop, I do have some decent relationships with some of these platforms. All right. Anyway, we'll continue from there. I just wanted to put this out there. Rock Nation damn near sent me the video and damn near copyright struck me for the video. Why? They didn't like what the fuck I said. And I tell you, to any upcoming blogger, journalist, media personality, remember I always say this. This is why y'all should take money for promo or whatever, but never take money for your opinion. Remember I told you that. If they could buy your opinion, you're worthless. If they could give you this to make you think that, this is why when people say Drake is paying you, I find it offensive. You can't pay me to think the way I think. If anybody could pay you to think the way you think, you're worthless in this game. And I've always operated off of that, and I'll continue to do that. So anyway, okay, so that was the other issue. Put it behind us. Let's get into the Diddy trial, people. Diddy trial is here. Diddy trial is here. We are getting to the deliberations. I believe in about an hour there should be start deliberating, but let's get into it. So it started about 59 minutes ago. Judge Submarinian, he actually entered. The judge says in this case, in case there's anything, we'll bring the jury in for charges, okay? Unless there's anything, basically. Garagos says the laptop is ready. There's a few things we'll finalize during the charge. So these are like laptops that the jury could be able to see some of the things easier, that they don't have a million pages or like booklets or whatever. They could just refer to like laptops. I guess they're going to either pass it around or maybe they have duplicate laptops for all 12 of them. So these laptops have all the approved evidentiary stuff and all the things that that as per the judge, it has been approved for the jury to see. Okay, so the laptop is ready. That's what Garagos is saying. By the way, keep in mind, they spent all weekend working on this. The judge says just email it to the chambers. Okay, so I'm guessing that is maybe it's not a laptop, maybe it's like a PDF. Then I don't know. The judge says all rise. The jury's come in. He says I'm going to read you the charge. It's long, but I'll try to make it interesting. You have now heard all the evidence in this case, as well as the final arguments of the parties. I will only instruct you on the law as I give it to you. The evidence is testimony. The answers and the exhibits are evident. Well, the answers and the exhibits are just evidence, and the arguments are not evidence, but the exhibits and answers are evidence. Okay. You are the sole and exclusive arbiters of the facts. What is reasonable doubt? Well, it's based on your common sense. After carefully weighing all the evidence, you may weigh each witness' credibility, the truth, and the importance of their testimony, size him or her up. You must decide. Sean Combs has been formally charged in an indictment. An indictment is not evidence. Count 1 charges from 2004 to 2024. It's a racketeering enterprise. Count 2, 2009 to 2018. Sex trafficking of Cassie Ventura. Count 3, from 2009 to 2018. Transportation of individuals, including but not limited to Cassie Ventura for the purposes of prostitution. Count 4, from 2019 to 2024. Sex trafficking of Jane Doe. Count 5, from 2019 to 2024. Transporting individuals, including but not limited to Jane, for the purposes of prostitution. Each count is separate. For attempt? What does that mean? For attempt, the U.S. must show intent and substantial steps taken. Mere intention does not. Oh, okay. Yes. So they have these statutes where it's like, sometimes attempted murder gets put under a murder statute, right? So certain things will be attempt. Like, for example, they had pursued or initially claimed they wanted to pursue Diddy for arson and attempted arson. Okay? So they're speaking to all these charges that have attempt, right? And they're saying for attempt, the U.S. must show intent and substantial steps taken. Mere intention does not amount to an attempt. Aiding and abetting means knowing some act to aid or encourage a crime to be committed. For RICO, the U.S. must prove that from 2004 to 2024, there was an agreement between two or more individuals for a racketeer enterprise. Now, chat, this is going to be a really interesting one. Remember, KK doesn't come in until 2016. So the co-conspirator KK isn't until 2016. But here's the thing. D-Rock is there the whole time. So D-Rock is going to be the person who is the first co-conspirator because he was there before KK. Okay? I believe that timeline is right? I don't think KK was listed in the indictment pre-2016. Anyway. So, again, none of these co-conspirators are charged, right? Cool. The agreement between two or more individuals for a racketeer enterprise that impacted interstate commerce that the defendant joined and committed at least 2 predicate acts. The U.S. must prove a mutual understanding. To cooperate, you may infer its existence of the circumstances in this case. Actions may speak louder than words. You may consider the acts of all those you find to be the participants. If you find that the Combs enterprise existed, you must find whether it continued in a substantial similar form from 2004 to 2024. The people could change. As to the defendant being a member, he had to know the existence of the enterprise. The U.S. alleged 8 predicate offenses. Okay, wow. They're doing some text-to-speech stuff here, I could tell, because, predicate offenses. Kidnapping, arson, bribery, witness tampering, forced labor, sex trafficking, transportation of prostitution, and intent to distribute narcotics. Chat, we've discussed these before. I said this was BS. I think this is BS. Witness tampering is BS. I think forced labor, I'm going to say BS as well. Sex trafficking, I'm going to say yes. It's probably closer. Transportation for prostitution, I say yes. Actually, iffy on the sex trafficking, right? We can't tell if there's sex trafficking because I don't think there's clear sex trafficking here. And transportation of prostitution, I think that's a yes. Intent to distribute, I say no. So I think there's one predicate. If you're asking me, I'm not on the jury, so, whatever. I think there's one clear predicate offense. I don't think he kidnapped none of these people. I don't think we have proof. I think he did do the Kid Cudi shit, but I don't think we got proof that he burned the motherfucking car up. Bribery, if he didn't know there was a fucking investigation going on, I don't know, right? Like, was he trying to bribe? Probably. But, like, again, it's not what he's trying to do. It's what he did according to the law, right? So, all of these things he may have done. I'm not saying he ain't do none of them. I'm saying he may have done all these things. But the evidence that we got through the trial, I don't think it supports this, witness tampering, or this, because he didn't know Shorty was in the grand jury. Forced labor, I don't know. That's kind of iffy. Sex traffic, I think that's 50-50, just because of Cassie. And then transportation for prostitution, I say yes. Intent to distribute narcotics, no. Unless, the AUSA gave us a flip of intent to distribute in their closing. They said, you don't have to intend to sell the narcotics. Buying drugs to pass out at the freak-offs is intent to distribute. I'm like, okay, I guess so. So I don't know. He needs to get found guilty of 2. He needs to prove that 2 of these offenses happen in a 10-year succession, okay? The judge says kidnapping does not have to occur if the victim consented, okay? So kidnapping does not occur if the victim, okay, this is why I believe the victim's 100%, like, for example, like, there's an evidence where kidnapping, like, I don't know if we kidnapped Mia, if Mia says, oh, no, I want to go do I want to prove my loyalty. Because they said, why did you do all this stuff and did what do you call it again? The lie detector test. And she said she wanted to prove her loyalty, right? She wanted to prove that, I'm down with the program, right? And I'm honest and loyal. So she consented. Now, here's the thing. Consenting under coercion is still kidnapping. If somebody has a gun to your head and says, go in there, you're like, okay, I'll go in there. That's not consent. So, obviously there's this whole thing. It's a dark cloud hanging over this case about people's words versus their actions. If Cassie says I'm horny and I'm going to get someone to come fuck me and I'm going to have a wild king night or a freak off, is she saying this willingly or she's saying this because she's scared? And she's been financially coerced and all these things. See, that's what the jury's going to have to, that's the biggest decision I think they got to make. You know what I mean? Like, the biggest decision they got to make is, do you believe that these people, even when at times they say something, do you believe their words versus their actions? Or do you believe their words on the stand versus their actions? And their words at the time. For example, Jane Doe gets mad at Diddy. Diddy tells her, bitch, you could kick rocks. Leave. It's all good. Get out of here. Skedaddle. She still stays. Now, if you listen to Dr. Hughes, who did testify, she's a victim. And they said there's part of victimhood where you feel stuck. You can't go anywhere. You don't want to go. Okay, perhaps. But again, the jury has to make this decision, right? It's like, okay. So there's 3 kidnapping cases, right? 3 kidnapping accusations. You brought Mia to a warehouse for 4 days in a row to get her lie detected. But she said that she agreed because she wanted loyalty. She wanted to prove loyalty. Is that kidnapping then? The prosecutors are alleging that. They're saying, well, she really didn't want to go. But if she didn't go, she'll lose her job. She knew Diddy was scary. Diddy got one of her scary bodyguards to bring her there. Okay. Cassie supposedly gets beat up, gets put in a hotel that she could recover. What happens? Cassie goes. We didn't see any conversation about Cassie saying, I don't want to go to the hotel. Actually, supposedly, Cassie was invited to come stay at one of Diddy's cribs to recover, and then they agreed, oh, okay, you could go to the hotel. Seemed like she's agreeing. However, there was this idea that she just got clobbered. She got beat up. So could she properly consent? Maybe she's still scared. I don't know. You got to make that decision. That would be the jury that has to make that decision. Right? Then what's the other case? The other case is Capricorn Clark. Diddy comes in supposedly banging on her door with a gun. Bang, 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 bang. She opens the door. What up, Diddy? He says, get the fuck ready. We about to go kill Kid Cudi. She hops in the car with Diddy. Diddy has a gun on his lap. She gets taken from one place to another, kidnapped. Supposedly against her will, she did not want to be there. However, when she testified, she never said Diddy threatened her. She never said she couldn't say no. She did say she was scared. Is it kidnapping? This is what I'm saying. Like, this case is going to be so interesting. It's going to be so interesting. Most likely because if you like Diddy, or if you think, oh, these bitches are lying, you're not going to think the worst. You're going to be like, nah, man. Like, yeah, was he a freaky ass bull? Like, yo, he a freaky ass dude. He gay, whatever. But these chicks knew what it was, and da-da-da-da. Okay, what the fuck is this? You know? My bad. Yeah, I got a lot of interesting things over the weekend. You know what happened to fall in my lap? I don't know if this is true. We responded. But I reached out to this individual several times to do an interview with him. He was unwilling. Now it's being returned to me that apparently Rodney Jones, Lil Rod, wants to do an interview. They reached out to me. I'll see if this is true. Lil Rod. The guy who, and shit, I'll read you the email. You want to hear the email? It's the email right here. Good morning. We represent Rodney Jones, who, as you know, is one of the main reasons Sean Diddy Combs is facing life in prison. His lawsuit was used as probable cause, which is true, for the raids on Diddy's properties. In the beginning, Rodney spent 5 days with federal authorities that helped build this historic case. Lil Rod would love to interview with you and share so much mind-blowing information. This comes from a reputable publicist. Okay, let's see. I'm down. What do you think about that? It's a lot, man. This is going to be a wild, wild week, chat. This is going to be a wild fucking week. Just remember I told you that. Okay. All right. So, it says bribery of a witness under California law requires that the co-conspirator gave or promised to give a bribe to a person given or about to give information on law enforcement to unlawfully influence it. Now, this is another iffy charge here, chat. I'm telling you, if a verdict comes back today, they either everybody on that jury pool hates Diddy, or he's innocent. They're just going to come back with an innocent verdict. Here's why this is also tough, this bribery thing. It's kind of like when Donald Trump paid off that woman. Like, she was a prostitute. He cheated on this girl. He smashed this like porn star or whatever. He only got indicted because it's not paying off the girl. Like, that wasn't the crime. The crime was you tried to fudge it and use campaign funds. Because here's the thing, someone like Donald Trump, you want to keep people silent from saying things that's going to hurt you. Right? That's normal. Like, you know, and that's what Diddy's lawyers argued. Hey, we never try to interrupt no federal investigation or any investigation, period. Diddy just doesn't want smut on his name. If he paid off anybody, it's because he ain't want a video coming out. That could make him look crazy, could devalue him. That's reasonable to me. Again, I think it would be reasonable to a regular person, but who knows? You never know how the jury's going to think. So, the argument of the prosecutors, bruv, you knew you were under federal investigation. And you know what they're using? And they said this during the cross. Diddy told one of these chicks, he told Jane, I can't He says, this is after the lawsuit filed by Cat. He said, I can't really talk on the phone. Then he told somebody else, I just want you to jog my memory. So why would someone say they can't talk on the phone? Is it because of a civil case or you don't want to get out in the press? Nah. Maybe you think your lines are tapped. Why would you think your lines are tapped? Maybe you think you're under investigation. So that's how the prosecutor's looking at it. Like, no, he was clearly trying to tamper with witnesses. He was telling them I can't talk on the phone. One of the other situations, he has D-Rock hit up Mia. It's like, yo, Mia, everything good? It's like, yeah, nah, Puff is trying to get in contact with you, trying to make sure, everything straight. He wants you to jog his memory real quick. No? She like, yeah, I've been low on a little Skrilla. D-Rock says, you need some bread? We can send that over to you. She said, no, I'm good. He said, well, Diddy's going to call you soon, okay? Just pick up. Diddy calls, she doesn't pick up. They're thinking that's a bribe or witness tampering. Did Diddy know that she was going to be in this case? Did Diddy know that she spoke with federal prosecutors? Did Diddy know that she was in the grand jury proceeding? We don't know. So, again, that's just all of these charges, chat, they're not clear cut. And the RICO alone, I think today, they're going to argue about that for hours. They have 8 predicate acts. All of these, there's multiple instances the prosecutor is alleging of these predicate acts, and they have to vote and narrow it down to see if there's 2, along with if there's an enterprise, and along with who's co-conspirators, and along if, they've been doing it within a succession of 10 years. Like, it's all of that. Somebody says, yeah. So the bribe, yes. So there's 2 things to do with bribery and witness tampering. Giving the guy the Intercontinental Hotel the money, but Diddy's team is saying that's because we don't want it on TMZ. We don't want it in the media. It's going to tarnish his reputation. It's not about hindering an investigation. Actually, they even double down and say police were never called. That's a good defense. Y'all never even called the cops. How the hell could we? Now, granted, you heard what the judge says. Bribery requires a co-conspirator to give a bribe or promise to give a bribe to someone that's given information or who was about to give information. Now, here's the thing. Nothing in that, in what the Flores dude testified, admitted that he was going to. He never admitted that he was going to call the cops. He never said that. The only person who said the cops was Diddy when he was trying to get Cassie back. He said, yo, the cops about to come. But they never said, and the guy never testified, oh, we were going to call the cops. In fact, the cops weren't called. So that I don't think is bribery, even though it would look like bribery, but there was no investigation. The cops never investigated this. What's the other bribery thing? It's Mia and then Dawn Rashad. No, actually it was going to be of Kalena, but Kalena is fully down with Diddy. She's not doing it because Diddy called her 88 times while they were trying to get her to come to grand jury. But she's so pro Diddy, clearly she was not flipping. And apparently her husband is like still works with Diddy somehow, whatever the case is. So, the prosecutors let go of that. But Dawn Rashad, she got threaded. She got thrashed on the stand. Okay. But it's Mia. Yo, Mia. Yo, you running low on money. You want some bread? That's when they were trying to recount her time with Diddy. So they're thinking that's a promised bribe or witness tampering. Now, here's the thing. One thing that the prosecutors or the defense team did, and this is why I like everything we're saying, all of these charges are muddy, but the 2 prostitution charges in my book. With bribery, usually, it also matters if you say an amount. Oh, yo, I got 10 grand for you. If it's just like, yo, I got something for you. That's vague. I'm not saying it's not bribery, but it's vague. They like for you to put to a dollar amount to it. So what Diddy's defense team said was, well, we weren't the person who brought up money in the conversation. Mia brought up money. Mia said she was running low on cash. D-Rock didn't even do that on behalf of Diddy when he said what he said next, which is, do you want me to send you something? D-Rock did it as a friend. If you ask me for money and I say I got you, that don't mean I want you to do A, B, C, and D. So that's the defense's argument on we never bribed this chick or tried to. We never said an amount. They brought up money. They said they were low on money. We said, all right, we got you. Sidebar. Chat, I'm trying to sit with Unc. I'm trying to sit with Unc tomorrow. I'm gonna coordinate my schedule that me and Unc we do tomorrow. Me and Lauren Conlon today. Me and Unc tomorrow. And if we do end up getting to a place where we're doing 3 days and we go to Wednesday this week without a verdict, I will see if I could somehow get everybody in the same room. Me, Lauren Conlon, Logic, and even Unc. You know? That'll be good. All right. The judge says a person may withdraw consent. Okay. So, all right. But it must be knowing. Okay. So for witness tampering, it's a violation of 18 USC 18 section 1512B3. It doesn't matter if the subject of the threat is in fact fearful. Okay? Only a threat is required. So witness tampering, there would have to be a threat. Now, remember, witness tampering, we have heard about threats being made. Like Diddy was just like, remember with the Mia thing, yo, listen, you fucked this up. Like, I think they had said like generally, but if she felt like it may have applied to her, whoever who took that man's jewelry and whoever failed this like lie detector, y'all niggas going, their body's gonna end up in the East River. Facts. Y'all niggas can't steal from the big didster like that. The diddler ain't gonna take that. But that wasn't a person who's gonna be a witness. That could be probably used towards maybe the coercion. That's why kidnapping happened. Like, yeah, she couldn't have consented. Y'all was threatening her to fucking throw her in the East River. So witness tampering is probably going to come from anything after the Cassie lawsuit. Who was he talking to? What happened then? When he was trying to jog everybody's memory. Mia, Dawn Rashad, comes from Jane Doe, right? Yeah, even though she didn't testify anything about Diddy doing things to her to make sure she doesn't testify. She didn't testify to that. Okay. But it must be known, okay? So it must be known that it was a threat made. For forced labor, okay? For forced labor, 18 Section 1589A requires use of force or use of physical restraint. Well, that's going to be interesting. Because forced labor means that if you don't do it or you don't work, you get your ass beat. Well, they say that the sex work was forced labor for Cassie and Jane. If they didn't suck that escort's cock, one of those. They also allude to pretty much forced labor for these inhumane work conditions of these assistants who would be working 18 hours a day. But I don't know if that's the thing that will be. I think they're going to focus on the forced labor of Cassie and Jane. In one specific instance, I believe Cassie took some bad pills. She took some bad pills. Wait, what happened? Am I missing something? What are y'all typing in the chat right now? Hold on. I gotta get to the chat. In one instance, Cassie took some bad pills. Cassie threw up. She threw up. Diddy told her, girl, get it together and get back on out there and finish up. Diddy would talk to Jane Doe, Daphne Joy, and give her words of encouragement to say, we got to finish strong. She would say, my pussy sore. I can't do this no more. Diddy would have 2 more niggas lined up. Remember, sometimes they were doing all-star freak-offs. She said, I'm sore. Cassie said, I got sores on my tongue. I don't know. Cassie would tell her, I got a UTI. Diddy would say, let's finish up strong. Get on your job. Diddy puts Bill Belichick to shame. Got an ACL injury? Nigga, get back out here. The fuck? Y'all good? I know we got a couple extra people in the building today. All right, Ruger Red, thank you for all the gifted memberships, my boy. Panda, what up? Thank you for the 5. So hit that like button. Chat. Everybody hit that like button. We're on Verdict Watch today. I'm bringing Lauren Conlin live and in person. Cali for Life says, act, stay prayed up, give it to God and leave it there. Rock Nation arms are too short to box for the Almighty. God has a way of humbling folks like no one can. It's crazy. Thank you. Yeah, Puff was on his Coach Carter vibes. I agree with y'all. Y'all said Kobe played on a broken leg? Goddamn UTI and you gotta fuck 3 niggas. Like, Jesus Christ. I'm not a female, but I could just imagine a urinary tract infection is killing you. It's killing you. Her tongue has sores on it. And Diddy was still saying, no, you need to suck that nigga's dick. My chat queens are just 2 classy individuals in here, beautiful ladies. I don't even want to ask them type of crass questions because they want to get down with that type of behavior. But just for inquiring minds, any of my chat queens in here ever suck some dick till you got sores on your tongue? What type of shit is that? So, do we got a witness in the building? Does anybody could testify to that? That's what happened when you suck too much dick. I don't even think that's normal. I don't think that's normal. Any of y'all chat queens ever suck so much cock that sores was on your tongue? What's that commercial? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll or a Tootsie Pop? Whatever the fuck that is. How come that motherfucker never had no sores on their tongue? How the hell? How much penis are you sucking? This is getting out of hand. I could tell you that Diddy was on some Coach Carter vibes. He ain't give a fuck about an injury. Diddy said he was setting up a freak off. The girl had to send the picture of her period blood. Chat, let me tell you this. Any of my players in here, a chick about to come over. If you don't really know like that, if it's your girl, maybe that's different. But she like, yeah, I'm on my period, but I think it's like the last couple days. You're like, no, stay home, girl. Stay the fuck home. She don't got to tell you. Just stay home. You chilling with her, whatever. Y'all get a little freaky. She's like, oh, I'm on my period. You don't be like, let me check. You're like, nah, you good. You good. You straight. For to get a hall pass out of these freak offs, they had to send the period blood. Nigga, look at it, nigga. Here's a tampon, nigga. Here's a tampon, nigga. I am out of commission. What's going on right now? That is what they doing. Diddy wasn't taking no for an answer. All right. Some of y'all freaky in here. Sandy Cardano told me, is she spotting or nah? Brown Skin Dragon says, mad flavor. Heavy flow? Wait, Brown Skin Dragon, if you got you got niggas eating the box on your period? Oh. Okay. Thank you, my boy. Whatever, man, 23. I'm with you. I don't need to see the pictures. Even if you're lying, I'll take you at your word. Because here's the thing. You have to realize, a lot of women are supposed to have some type of decorum in class. You never know. This could be it's like a petri dish down there. It could be a bad vagina date that day. I don't know. Maybe she fucking with other people. She got a little yeast infection, BV or whatever. She ain't trying to tell you that. It's embarrassing. She told you she on her period. She ain't, she don't want you down there right now. Don't ask some more fucking questions. Keep it moving. Get a little head. Keep it moving, motherfucker. Right? But if you like, nah, man, Fuck that. Nah, we need you in this freak off. 3 niggas ready to fuck you. Interesting. The judge says a person may withdraw consent and it may become forced labor. Sex traffic will have the same definition in counts 2 and in counts 4. In transportation and engaged in prostitution, it will be the same as count 3 and count 5. The judge says next is distribution of narcotics, including this long word that you've seen here, knowingly and intentionally. Sorry. Distribution actually means the transfer, which means delivering it from one person to another. For possession, physical custody is not needed. Control is enough. The judge says, so basically what we've realized, the AUSA was right. Selling drugs is not necessary for distribution of narcotics. It's only having control of them, whether in your possession or your control, and sending it out or giving it out knowingly and intentionally. So as long as the transfer happens, that's kind of interesting at that point, right? Now, here's the thing about this particular predicate offense under the RICO statute, right? All of these that we've read, forced labor, witness tampering, kidnapping, I don't think they talked about arson yet, but they all fall under the RICO. So they're still on the first count. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is interesting about distribution of narcotics. Well, if everybody was drug addicts and everybody wanted drugs or they were taking drugs, is it reasonable to say that other people had the drugs and they had it under their control, or maybe they're now just blaming it on Diddy? Could you 100% say that Cassie wasn't buying drugs herself? By the way, the defense proved Cassie did buy drugs at times for personal use. Matter of fact, they even highlighted a portion where Diddy was upset that Cassie's friend, I believe Kerry, or was it maybe Mia? It might have been Mia because me and her were close. Mia allowed her to take drugs. And she says, why do you keep letting her get so high? What that shows is that not all the times there was drugs around, Diddy was the one administering it and the one in control of it. However, does it mean that he was never the one? No. And does he need to be the person doing it all the time? No. But that gives a little bit of reasonable doubt, if you ask me, to the minds of the jurors to say, how do we know that these people didn't request it from Diddy or didn't ask for it or didn't buy it? And yeah, they were using Diddy's a financier because he got the money, but they're getting drugs for them. Also, we have no drug charges. We have no dead to rights shit that, maybe like a recorded thing. Well, I mean, they have KK, but KK's not there. They don't have none of Diddy's messages that say, hey, I'm texting you. No, I'm sending this. Well, actually, maybe did they? I'm sending this drugs to you. I'm getting the drugs. Now, there is stuff of Diddy buying drugs. And that's going to get a little murky as well. The judge says RICO has a 5-year statute of limitation. You must find that it continued past 2019. If you find that the government has not proved this beyond a reasonable doubt, you must find the defendant not guilty. Now, that's going to be very, very, very important, people. This is a huge line, and this line could help Diddy avoid jail. Let's speak on it. Let's say we're in the thought of saying, well, Cassie was sex trafficked. And by the way, this is why they have Cassie's sex trafficking as his own charge, which is count 2. We ain't get there yet. But the RICO might erupt at this point. Let's say you say, nah, he definitely did all that shit. Up until he met Jane. Up until he met Jane, because that bitch is a freak. That's 50 Cent's ex. That's a fucking freak. If these behaviors didn't continue past or post Cassie, they must choose to vote not guilty. Diddy is not guilty of RICO. If they cannot prove all of those 8 things or any of the 2 of the 8 things didn't continue past 2019. So let's think about it. Let's go back to the 8 predicate offenses of RICO. Kidnapping. Was there any allegations of kidnapping post 2019? Was there? I gave you 3. Cassie to the hotel. Mia to the thing that they could quiz her about the stolen jewelry. Capricorn Clark to Kid Cudi's house. All of those things happened beyond 5 years. Arson, that happened in 2011 or 2012. Beyond 5 years. Bribery, well, that did happen in 2024. They're accusing that bribery and witness tampering happened. And that's why I think those 2 things were important. They had to throw them in there because otherwise it's only going to be sex trafficking that kept happening, right? Well, transportation, that's a gimme. That's a whole gimme thing, right? Well, I guess the drugs too. Okay, so the things that we know for a fact, so when the jury's sitting down, they got to prove, first of all, is the statute of limitations correct, right? Which, by the way, they've kind of done that already, but it's a different type of vote because they did this in grand jury. They got a grand jury to say that happened, but now we've had the trial. Some of these things just fall flat, right? But that's not. It doesn't matter if it's true or not because this is about time period of the allegation. We didn't get to is the allegation truth. Time period of the allegation. There is no kidnapping charge or allegation in a predicate offense sense in the last 5 years. There's no arson. There is bribery. There is witness tampering. There is forced labor because they kind of match it up with sex trafficking. Forced labor of Jane Doe, sex trafficking of Jane Doe, transportation of prostitution, Anton and all them other dudes, and Jane Doe. Intent to distribute narcotics. Yes. So they have 6. So it's pretty much 6 that they have to at least believe that happened. Now, did these things happen? That's later on in the discussion if I'm thinking how they're going to be deliberating. Okay. So cool. So here we go. So if the RICO didn't continue past 2019, it's not guilty, right? Okay. This is the most important moments of Diddy's life. I would love to see and hear. I would love to see and hear. I would love to see and hear how he's feeling today, how he's looking today. We've heard about his body language when the closing arguments was being made. They said Diddy wasn't sitting next to the chair like this. He was like this. Like he fell back in his chair. He fell back in his chair just kind of like almost like, really, nigga? That type of shit. When his defense team did their closing arguments, they said Diddy was up here with it, and he was like nodding and yeah, you know? So Diddy's body language changes. And I would love to see what the body language is today. I would love to even know what he wore today. You know, this is very important. This is the most important. I think it's going to happen in 3 days. If it happens today, it's crazy. But I think it's going to happen in these next 3 days. And this is going to be super, super, super important for Diddy in how he presents himself. Does he come off like a pompous, arrogant person? I'll give you an example. Now, this is civil court, not federal court. And this is not a United States jurisdiction. But Conor McGregor, he got found liable, and that's what they say in civil court, it's either you're liable or not, you know? It's not guilty of doing something, because a civil jury does not take precedence on you committing a crime. They take precedence on if you're liable for the crime being committed, which they don't need beyond a reasonable doubt. They need a preponderance of the evidence, or the preponderance of, the preponderance of evidence, which means just a majority. It's majority rules. Now, I'm going to tell you why I bring this up. Okay. He since appealed the lawsuit, but I'll tell you why I bring this up. According to people, and I watched a whole long thing, there was a journalist that was in there watching every day. They said Conor McGregor showed up to court like how he shows up to the ring. Chest out, walking up in there, wilding like he about to go to a UFC fight, scoffing that shit. He was arrogant, pompous. He was acting like, yo, I'm too good to be here. Y'all peasants got the chance to lay your eyes on me. That's enough. This like an appearance. They humbled him real quick. Guilty. Well, found guilty, but liable. They found liable, right? Lost the case. They believe the bravado in which I think he may have taken a stand. I think he may have taken the stand. Yes, he did. He did. Apparently, when he was talking about the woman, he was basically saying, man, are we serious? This bitch wanted that shit. Stop playing with me, man. Come on, man. That didn't play too good in court. The arrogance, the pompousness. So I bring it back to the Diddy trial, and I say, Diddy, it's the first time we've seen Diddy dress in age-appropriate clothing. They said Diddy is wearing them, he dressing like Bill Cosby from The Cosby Show. He got them little sweaters. Like he dressing like a Huxtable, This is how he dressing. He wearing shit like this now in court. It's like, it's very, I'm an older guy. Yeah, this is Diddy up in court. Take it easy on me. Right? Take it easy on me. Don't do me too crazy. This ain't pop-pop. This ain't pop-pop, chat. This ain't pop-pop. This is Cliff Huxtable. You get what I'm saying? And that does matter when you're looking for these people to perceive you as maybe someone wrongly indicted. I know they try to get that in the closing arguments, which the judge had to make a verbal correction to the jury, but they're trying to come off with this approach because remember, Diddy's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, literally said they targeted him. They're targeting him. He wants to look like someone, you can't look like you're the top Don Dada and people feel bad for you being targeted. Now, if you look a little meek and a little like damn, look at him. This nigga grayed up from the beard up. Nigga's fully gray. He's dressing different. It's intentional. It doesn't look like pocket square, like, got double-breasted like suit. No. Let's keep it. Let's find it. This is the first time Diddy ever looked his age. Diddy's 55, I think. How old is Diddy? First time. When he was running around with Young Miami, he got a button up on as tight as a motherfucker with 3 buttons open up. He wanted you to see the chest hair. You know what I mean? Not like that in court, clearly. Right? So I would love to hear from the people in court to hear how Diddy up in there rocking. The judge says on the sex trafficking, which is counts 2 and 4, a transport means to take and convey from one place to another. Reckless disregard satisfy the statutes. Okay? The deliberate closing of eyes. You must unanimous on at least one specific instance of sex trafficking. You got to be unanimous. I think one incident, and I think their strongest incident, or actually two incidents for Jane Doe, 50's baby mom, is going to be when they say, well, she had gotten her ass beat, and then he called over Anton, and he forced her to fuck him. Remember, sex trafficking, it means force, fraud, or coercion. Well, if you just got your ass beat, that's force. And then the other instance is when she went for her birthday and she flew somewhere and she said, for my birthday, I just want to be with you, Diddy. Just you, me and you. I don't want to do a freak off. And Diddy said, sorry, baby girl, we're going to go out, we're going to do nice things. We ain't doing no freaky shit, none of that freak off shit. Simultaneously, Diddy hit up an escort and said, yo, link up over here. He lied to her. That's fraud. He told her, you're coming here not to do A. She shows up. He has her doing A. He lied. That will be fraud. There is a coercion that's in all of these situations because they're saying he coerces them with his money, his fame, his resources, hanging a career over their head, hanging their house over their head. And that's how he coerces them. Let's keep it going. Here we go. The judge says prostitution is engaging sexual activity for money or its equivalent. You must be unanimous on at least one specific act of transportation with intent to engage in prostitution. On venue, the U.S. must prove at least one act occurred in SDNY, and it's 8 counties. Okay. So because they charged this in SDNY, and I don't know if you know this, chat, they could have charged, and here's the thing, it depends on how bad they want Diddy. Even if Diddy beats this case, he could still get brought up on other charges in other states. Take R. Kelly, for example. R. Kelly had 2 federal charges or federal cases that kind of captured some of the same behavior, but they were looked at differently for how they were being charged. So they might have caught him on okay, this is your RICO charge here, that's a predicate offense, then they would bump it up to a standalone charge in another place, right? So a lot of if we're going to say prostitution, it happened pretty much in Miami and LA, but also New York. So it says prostitution is engaging in sexual activity for money or its equivalent. Do we believe that Jane Doe was having sex for money? Now, here's where it gets tricky. She's getting an allowance. People. What we never got into was the details of the love contract. If the love contract had said, you have to fuck me 15 days out of the month and you get 10 grand, that would be very profound and really dead to rights. You got Diddy. But it's reasonable to assume that Diddy was just taking care of her. Now, did she have a financial interest that may have encouraged her to do certain things? Yes. Is that flat out prostitution? And I'm ad-libbing here, but I believe this is true. And I think this was reasonable assumption. You have to somehow have the agreement to say this money is for sex. Because otherwise, anytime you have sex with a woman and say, I don't know, afterwards or say later or say before you bought her lunch, it'd be like, no, you buying her lunch was for the sex. Like, that wouldn't be a fair way how to try to prosecute, because basically anyone you have sex with, you could never exchange money with, right? Because it could be seen a certain way. It could be seen, interpreted. And a lot of stuff is up to interpretation. So I got to imagine there has to be some agreement. Yo, you're giving me this for that. So you must be unanimous on at least one specific act of transportation. And on the venue, the U.S. must prove at least one act occurred in the Southern District of New York. This is why they kept using the Trump Hotel in New York. And they're trying to prove that that's where a lot of the freak-offs happen. That's why they showed the bill. There's a lot of they showed the bill of the hotels because they're saying this happened. And within the Southern District of New York, Manhattan is there. Okay? Manhattan is there. The judge said, we're in the home stretch. In Wayne expert testimony, you should not just accept it because I allowed it. The testimony of the government officials are not worth more or less weight than any other witness. Witnesses given immunity should be examined with greater. With greater, I don't know what that word could be. Sorry. Greater scrutiny, I guess, than ordinary witnesses. Charts and summaries, demonstrative aids, they're not evidence and will not be available to you in the jury room. Scott Darkwez, thank you, my boy, for the 10. I'm a trucker, man. I took the month off the road, and I'm back out here now. I'm excited to catch up on all this news from the trial and the industry. While I drive, we appreciate the hours you put into this trucker chat. Now, I'm telling you, man, I love my truck job. My truck drivers and my delivery guys, you guys, I'm telling you, y'all the people who, y'all probably watch the entire stream. Not saying everybody else doesn't, but I know y'all watch the whole stream. Because y'all be having, you got to stay up. And if I do a service to you by helping you stay up while you travel all across the country, I appreciate you, hopefully just like how you appreciate me. All right. The judge is giving these instructions. It's getting there. Diddy does, yeah. See? It's these type of outfits. Look at this. Chill. Why? What? Why to put Diddy in heels? But Diddy does not look. You got to put the gray hair. Got to put the gray hair. You got to put the gray hair. It's getting down to the wire, people. Getting down to the wire. It appears they might start deliberating at lunch. Let's try to get another tweet. Still waiting. Okay. We need to figure out. Oh, is this? I want to see how they showing up to court today. How are they showing up to court today? I'm trying to see. Anyone who knows, anyone who, here we go. Chat, we got it. This is how they showed up today, June 30th. Wow, very different. This was kind of somber, right? Very different energy. Sometimes we see them coming in. yeah. Like this time, I think they're realizing this process is over. They finally got bodyguards now with the suit on. Why does this look like Ice from the Joe Budden podcast? This look like officially Ice from the Joe Budden podcast. Am I tripping if I make an assumption about body language? They don't look the most upbeat. They don't look the most upbeat.
Taking off his shoes, ladies, that's how you look when he's taking off his shoes about to deal with you. Nah. Ladies, that's how you look when he's about to deal with your case. Boy, Quincy taking off boots.
Okay.
Quincy.
Yeah, Quincy been there. No, it's not Quincy. This is Christian. Christian been there the whole time. He looks a little down. I could be reading wrong into this. This is Justin here.
Quincy.
Looks like he got a lot on his mind. I don't fully understand it. No. Here comes the girls. These twins right here, matching hairstyles, matching outfits all the time. Like, damn. Who's that? Here's the mother.
My mom's. My mom's. OOTA.
Who's that?
Oh, Holly.
Lawyers, I guess. Okay. We are down to the final moments, people. Chat, can we get a preliminary? We need a vote. We need a vote. Let's run it for as long as we can. YouTube, we need a vote on what do you think the verdict is going to end up being? Do you think that Diddy will be found guilty or innocent? We'll keep it that broad right now, even though we have to go down per charge, which is 5. Here we go. On sex, okay, we read this already. Certain witnesses were permitted to be identified by pseudonyms. That should bear on your evaluation of credibility. The defendant had no responsibility to testify, and he did not. You must not attach any significance to that. Voluntary intoxication may negate the intent requirement. Ooh, that's another thing. Remember at the beginning, I said that Diddy was doing something adjacent to an insanity plea where he's like, yo, I was drunk this whole time. So basically he's saying that like, yeah. And remember I told you it was to try to like let people understand that if you see these mood swings or like outbursts, is, oh no, I'm drunk, I'm high. That's not me. Now we get to realize where it really plays in. It's going to negate the intent requirement. So voluntary intoxication may negate the intent requirement of the RICO predicates. Uncalled witnesses. Yes, you've heard the names of people not called as witnesses. Each side had an opportunity to call them. Do not speculate or consider this. This is going to be very important when he says voluntary intoxication may negate the requirement. Wow. What are y'all thinking? You know, when it comes to that Cassie beating video, Diddy wants to say he was drunk. He got in a fit of rage because he was intoxicated. He wasn't trying to sex traffic her and bring her back to the room for the freak off. In actuality, she never went back to the room to have sex. Now, the prosecutors came back and said, sex trafficking doesn't mean she had to have sex after the beating and you pulling her back to the room. Sex trafficking means that you pulled her back to the room with intent to have sex. What Diddy's also saying, I was drunk, bitch. I was drunk. I was off that motherfucking Terramana. I was off that liquor, man. I was off that. Blame it on the juice. Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the 2C. Blame it on whatever. Blame it on the pills, the ecstasy, the Molly. Blame it on anything. Blame it on the cocaine. Blame it on something else. I said, Pop not guilty. Now, what I think this is a weak statute weak explanation about voluntary intoxication, saying it could negate, and then they say may, and they say may negate the intent requirement. Here's my thing about that. If the pattern of behavior is from 2004 to 2024, and some of the violence and the other behavior has continued all throughout those years. Diddy went to rehab, if y'all didn't know. He went to rehab at the time. But it continued after that. So if you're saying that it was the drugs, you claim you got help for the drugs, and then you still did the behavior. You even did one called the sober night. The sober night. Remember? They had a sobriety night. Remember, this is after the All-Star Freak-Off. Jane Doe complained about the drugs making her feel not good. Also, Diddy a real freaky nigga. Diddy brought a prostitute that was musty. Body odor kicking on 1,000. Jane said, I can't fuck him. I can't suck that dick. That smells disgusting. Then Diddy said to the prostitute he could go. Well, and I'm colloquially calling them prostitutes, even though none of them have admitted to be prostitutes. So we're going to just call them, I won't even call them sex workers. They're escorts. They're escort people. But for the idea that drugs fueled all of this and anything you saw Diddy was a mastermind of, maybe it was only because he was on drugs, he did do this as well sober. He did this as well sober. Chat, I see what y'all saying. That's the true definition of a sour D. Yeah. Diddy wanted her to suck the dude up when the dude was musty. The dude was musty. Diabolical, people. Very diabolical. Nate Dogg, I see you, my boy. I see you. There's a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of texts, too. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let me see what Long Crime's got going on.
So there are so many going on. The breaks including breaks, ought to look pretty similar than what they did while they were hearing testimony.
Okay, so I guess this is a By the way, chat, I've been looking for juror number 6. Juror number 6. You have been dismissed from the case. Big Ack want to talk to you. Big Ack needs to talk to you. We have to speak to somebody who's a juror who sat through this, and yes, he was dismissed because of a candor issue. However, we wanted to get his perspective. He was a black male. What did he feel, and where was he leaning to with all these charges? Did he think Diddy was guilty? He sat through the entire trial. The entire trial he sat through.
Instructions does the jury get to understand what their job is once these deliberations begin?
So there are always general instructions, a series of general instructions having to do with their obligations as a jury, including, but not limited to, things related to evidence as a general standpoint. Here's how you're supposed to weigh evidence. Here's where common sense weighs in. I'm not quoting, from exact jury instructions, but they do cover what their conduct is supposed to be as jurors, how they're supposed to weigh evidence, and then the specific causes of action themselves. Okay, as it pertains to racketeering, this is what needs to be shown, and then there's some supplemental instructions or some instructions that go into a bit more detail about each of the causes of action. So there'll be general instructions about their conduct, the things that they're supposed to do, and how to weigh evidence, as well as things that are specific to the causes of action themselves.
Again, it's supposed to take a couple of hours, and then it will be in the jury's hands. A couple more comments and questions coming in. I have to shout this one out from Nat Lai. Says I'm having a great hair day. Says, Chris, your hair is beautiful. Dr. Hendricks, I'm going to turn to you right now. Someone asks here, I'll get their username in a moment. This is from Sparkle Thickness 5728. Is P. Diddy getting any sort of special treatment as he's been held at the MDC?
No, and I think probably the only special treatment he's probably given is where he's being housed in the East Building. MDC is set. There's two buildings. There's the East Building and the West Building. The East Building is mainly for the cadre inmates who are what we call,
you see, it's these outfits,
trustees, inmates that can move about freely throughout the facility to work and program. So he's in an open base setting, and he's housed with probably about 15 to 20 other individuals that are awaiting trial. Typically, as someone who's facing a RICO charge will be in the West Building with other inmates that could either be terrorists, could be major drug dealers, or violent criminals. So I would say probably the only special treatment he's receiving thus far is where he's being housed. Because if he is convicted, those...
Now, that's a little bit different than what we heard from, but even though this is state prison. Y'all heard Whack 100, Tory Lanez. He said the floors in the jail is, I seen it somewhere. Said Tory has Louis Vuitton floors or something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I got to ask Wack if he was trolling. Is it this?
They don't care about PC versus General Pop. Like, honestly.
He's totally wrong. Because that wasn't a GP yard. It was a PC yard.
Oh, he's in a PC yard.
Yeah. So yeah. So, and you got to remember.
Okay, I got it wrong.
Now, this is what's crazy.
Thank you for clarifying.
This is what's crazy.
Now, I know we're kind of beyond looking at what Diddy's jail standards are, and it's definitely not comparable. He's in MDC, really a tough place to be, unlike Tory that's in California State Prison, which as much as, prison sounds worse than jail, but prison gives, because they plan for a longer stay, they give you a little bit more of a nice regimen and a little bit more amenities. But it gives you some type. The reason why we went to trial is because Diddy really couldn't take jail. And I mean, no one could really take jail, but like he wanted to get out of there as quickly as he could. And he exhausted all his options for bail. And as soon as he exhausted it, he said, yo, let's go to trial. Fuck it now.
And that's why, because the dude was a child molester, so that's why he was in PC. Oh,
Tory
right.
just went where they placed him. He's not a Crip, he's not a Blood. Once he gets there, oh shit, this is what they call. Tory was just gonna
Matter if he goes to PC or not. Yeah?
I know what the inside of his cell looks like.
Huh.
Literally.
Okay.
I seen the paint. He got Louis Vuitton floors.
Okay. I don't believe that part.
I ever told you some BS?
Tory Lanez has Louis Vuitton floors in his state prison cell.
Y'all believe that? They said Tory Lanez is dripping even in prison. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I would call cap on that, but there's a famous rapper. I promise you. A famous rapper. I won't say the name. And this happened probably over 2 years ago. But I still won't say the name because they're still incarcerated. The nigga FaceTimed me from prison because he said, I need you to follow my new Instagram. Because I think the feds took his last one. I said, I need you to follow my new shit. So I'm popping it out here. I'm like, okay. The nigga had on a Cuban chain, I swear. The nigga had on a Cuban link chain in jail. I couldn't believe it. So, it is possible. It is possible. And yes, that was federal custody.
R&B.
State prison cell.
R&B. Did Tory Lanez have Louis Vuitton? Bro.
Yes, he did.
You saw this.
I saw it.
I'm going to find it. I'm going to send it to you. I got it. You know,
What is the material made out of?
He got a hold of paints.
Oh, it's just painted Louis Vuitton.
Browns
Oh, okay.
and golds.
Oh,
Okay. The nigga who called me had a legit Cuban link. And I look it on his neck and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, how does Wi-Fi work like that in there? I would think they would have the Wi-Fi block. I don't know how he got on. He was just like, yo, I run this shit. I'm doing whatever I want. I'm like, all right. I will not say that man's name. I'll just put it like this. I was scared of him in jail. I'm scared of him free and in jail. I'll leave that one alone. Shout out to him, though. Shout out to him. Hopefully he gets out soon.
Conditions that he's currently in will definitely be different.
Joe, I know you're a regular on Law and Crime. Kelly Bees 6578 says, "Oh, it's Joe again. Hi, Joe. I think he lives there." So it's good to know.
Okay. So she's
indictment, we knew that Cassie was working with the feds. We knew that she had powerful statements, and she was up on the stand for multiple days in both direct and cross. And I think she did a really good job of laying out so many facets of her relationship with P. Diddy, especially the fact that she started, meeting with him when she was 19 years old in the entertainment industry, that she signed this 10-album deal and only produced one because she alleges that Diddy stifled her career. And then, of course, to see the Intercontinental video and then hear Cassie's testimony in regards to all of it. She said she left.
Now, what do you guys think about this portion of it? So, through the direct examination of Cassie Ventura while she was on the stand, it was kind of made to say Diddy did not pursue or had no interest in Cassie's musical career. And he made sure she was unsuccessful, blocking opportunities, doing X, Y, and Z, because he wanted her to find her true calling, which was a freak off 2-time Hall of Famer. All the badges. That's what he thought her true calling was. That's what she pretty much agreed with prosecutors while they were questioning her. However, on defense, they then proved, not through Cassie, but subsequent things, when they had a financial officer up there, they had other people up there, and they said Cassie was one of the most supported artists on the label, if not the most. So they claim Cassie didn't get lack of support by Diddy. She got more than what she was warranted because she was Diddy's girl. Who do you believe? Who do you believe? Who do you believe? Do you believe that Diddy blocked her from being a star? Or Diddy tried everything he could fucking do to make her a star? And when she couldn't be a star, he said, come on home, baby girl. I got a starter spot for you on the Freak Off squad. Got all type of badges, 99 everywhere. Hall of Fame throat. I don't know about Hall of Fame box, because I ain't gonna lie. This nigga still fucked me up. This guy still fucked me up. I ain't gonna lie to you. This nigga still fucked me up. Like, I hope this... Did anyone prove that this nigga was telling the truth or what? Because this was diabolical, chat. I'm still in awe. I'm still in awe chat. I'm still in awe. I'm still in awe. I'm still in awe, chat. I'm still in awe. Here we go.
I know I'll never be able to ask her this question, but her vagina walls.
I don't want to make myself sound like I'm trying to aggrandize myself, but I used to, when Cassie and I would have sex, I would probably take less than 20 strokes to make her orgasm. I never orgasm really, because the problem was the fact that she's not tight and the baby oil. The baby oil was a problem. The baby oil kind of made sex impossible for a man to enjoy. Baby oil made a loose vagina looser than it needed to be. So it was literally like a constant, it was like being in hell, being constantly tormented, like I was going to have an orgasm, but never being able to have an orgasm because she wasn't tight enough to make me orgasm. But she's orgasming back to back. I mean, I'm in her 20 strokes. Oh my God, she's squirting all over the bed. And then I'm like, yo, can I get something? Oh, I need a second. I think there was a period where
this nigga's a liar, man. But it's entertaining. Yo, why? How come the liars are the best entertaining people?
I had sex with Cassandra, and this is the truth. I don't think I had one orgasm in 6 months every time I met her.
Cassie Walls. I know I'll never be able to ask. They didn't put you or Rico on the stand.
No, because they knew we were going to say that she was complicit.
Like, I feel like they have to do some changes when it comes to the laws behind that, because if girls are choosing to have a pimp and the pimp is there to protect them and ensure that they're not getting mistreated during their encounters with men and stuff like that, and they have to pay the pimp for protection because, like, how is he going to make money? You know, to me, even though, yeah, he did all this shit, but I feel like the feds, they love a big cash out. 400 million is at stake that they're going to seize. I don't even think he'll have money for an appeal. The Justice Department will inherit $400 million that was, I guess, made off of sex trafficking or illegal criminal crimes using his organization, bad boy records and all that stuff. And meanwhile, they get to retire off of that money. And it's like, why are you allowed to retire off of money that you say is made legally, and y'all get to use it to pay federal witnesses and pay for y'all retirement as well too? The money should be burned, right? Nobody should get the money.
True. And it should definitely go to the true victims, some of the male prostitutes as this has happened to.
Wait, the male escorts are not claiming they're victims? Hold on now. Yeah, I don't know if you remember this guy right here.
This one time, the entire living room was dark, which I thought was weird. But basically, in this encounter, what she does is she keeps the room dark so I can't see the fact that she's menstruating. She kind of seduces me into thinking that we're going to have sex regularly because, again, I don't know she's on a menstrual cycle. She gets on top of me. She grabs my member. She inserts it in her because she's already wet. She's on her menstrual cycle. She orgasms real quick, and then I push her off of me, cut the lights on, and it literally looks like the St. Valentine's Day massacre. It's blood everywhere because she's heavily on her period. So I'm pissed. I'm like, I said, why would you do something like that to me? This is disgusting. Tasha, the girl is totally shitting on me. She's like, so what? So what? And she's arrogant about it. So Diddy's sitting there watching it. He's her man. He's her protector. I'm getting more and more.
Oh, so according to this guy, I really think this guy's capping, but let's go on to like the 5% chance he's not. Yeah, all right, let's go on the 5% chance he's not. What the fuck is this? Oh. let's go on the 5% chance he's not. His idea is that Diddy was a pimp and he looked at Cassie like a hoe. That Diddy was pimping. Really?
Aggressive. I'm calling her nasty, bitchs. I'm pissed. He says, yo, you know something, bro? You mad cool. It's been like 6-7 years. I'm not going to lie to you. She knew she was on her period. She just really wanted you to come here. You see how we was calling you. You see how she demanded you come. So she had sex with you. He was like, yo, it was wrong. I'm going to give you some money. Calm down. Let's not do this. We've been seeing each other too long. He really used to try to be a mediator. I'm not going to lie. He goes in the room. He gets me like $5,000. He comes out. He gives me $5,000 to stop arguing with her. Tasha, I stopped arguing with her. He says, yo, go check it in your room. He gives me a key for my suite in the Beverly Hills Hotel. I take my $5 cash. I go to my room. I go to sleep. I wake up the next day. She calls me that night. She apologizes about the night before. She says, listen, I was drunk. I'm on my period. I was horny. You really disappointed me by the fact that you didn't want to come. And she said, yeah, what I did was wrong. I'm sorry. I should have told you I was on my period. She totally apologized. So how could you get on the stand and tell the stand that Diddy made you have sex with me when you know for a fact that I know that that's a lie?
Yeah, I think this guy's like a plant, and like he's there to just make Diddy look good, because he's kind of saying the opposite of like what the prosecutors are saying, and he's saying that's why they didn't put him up there, because the prosecutor knew he would expose that Cassie was willing, was a participant, and she wanted it most of the time.
There was one sex worker. He said that he got paid $5 million because he contracted herpes.
From Diddy? From
Yeah.
Cassie, from Diddy. I believe him. When I saw that interview, I knew that the things he was saying was the truth.
Now, again, we haven't heard any sex worker admit that Diddy was fucking them. So if they did contract something, they contracted it from Cassie, right? Because according to all the sex workers, and there is a MO, a modus operandi, where Diddy would just allow those people to have sexual intercourse, the male sex worker and Cassie, and then he would go play with the semen like Play-Doh in the other room, and then he would have his turn with her. There was one sex worker that did admit that Diddy told him to watch out. Like, it was like, yo, it's my turn now to fuck her. Like, wait, get out of the pussy real quick. It's my turn now. But Diddy never was ever intimate. We've never heard from someone who admitted that Diddy was intimate with them as a male sex worker, okay?
Because I didn't see Jonathan Odie's interview till 2021, and when I saw it, he said I was a sex slave for Cassie. It was like, oh my God, this guy's talking about my life. This was me.
Who the hell? He was making this shit up because he was like trying to kill Trump, and then he comes out with this interview talking about, yo, I was a sex slave, and we looking like, what?
He was younger. He was more attractive. You know, just like me, I'm older now, but at the time I was bigger, I was younger, I was more attractive. It was easier if you were in that lifestyle and you had a certain type of body, the physique, the chest, the arms. It wasn't really hard to be noticed by the right people. So I got noticed by Cassie, and that was pretty much history.
Somebody just said in the chat, do y'all think that Diddy had erectile dysfunction? Do y'all think Diddy had erectile dysfunction? By the way, I was watching this, and yes, we're still going through jury instructions. I'm waiting for some more tweets. Don't you worry. We're doing all hands 360-degree coverage of this Diddy case, and we're gonna give you every portion of it. Oh damn! Look at Lauren.
It's day 26.
All right, Lauren. All right, shorty. Yo, Chad, I might have to put that shit on. I'm about to meet her today. I'm about to put that shit on. I'm playing. Dr. Umar wouldn't approve. Dr. Umar. All right, let me see. What am I trying to Google here? Real life street stars. Okay. So the Punisher claims that he got erectile dysfunction because he said, and like, I want real niggas, but also like, you know, obviously my chat queen's in here to chime in on this. I was watching this last night. I was in here like trying to clean up a little bit and not stream. What he said was he felt he developed. He said that the situation with Cassie and Diddy helped contribute to why he had erectile dysfunction. So he developed a case of erectile dysfunction, and it came from he said he was always drugged up during sex. And he even admitted, he said, yo, all these like performance enhancement pills that he would take, number one, he couldn't nut. And I'm being a little bit crass here, like, but I'm trying to keep it on some shit that makes sense. He said he couldn't orgasm because he was always jacked up on pills, and he was taking pills so much that without pills he couldn't couldn't get an erection. Let me have him explain it for a second.
Nah, so the way it was set up was she testified before me. So I was involved in stations, and I'm on the phone, and I told this circle of dudes from my gym on a group chat that it happened. This is on trial. I'm testified. I was investigated for what I really thought. I thought maybe he was like licking it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought, right?
So he's going back to, he said there was specific instruction on how he had to come on her.
All around the outside. And the reason why I suspected it was it was like mandatory that I had to finish each session orgasm. And it had to be specific. It has to be all around the outside of her vagina. You know what I'm saying? And what made me kind of figured something was going on with it. And honestly, what I really thought, I thought maybe he was like licking it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought, right? But I don't know. I didn't see. That's what I thought, right? But the cue was I would do it. And so, mind you, I told you, all the couches are covered in sheets. We start wearing towels. And when I would finish, she would never wipe off. He would get up, walk out the room. She would follow him. And she would follow in a way to make sure it doesn't come off. So I suspected something, but I didn't know it was the nipple lathering type.
Okay. We have the tweets. We have the remaining amount of tweets until the judge like dismisses people. So let me get through them right now. So the judge says, any notes that you took are only for you. No outside reading. You're to consider only what was presented within the four walls of this courtroom. You may not communicate about this case, including on X, Instagram, or YouTube. If you see this, tell my deputy. He says, don't be swayed by the bias, including implicit bias. These hidden thoughts can impact what we hear, see, and how we remember it. You will now retire to consider the case. Each of you must decide the case for him or herself. After deliberating, your verdict must be unanimous. If you are divided, do not report the specifics. Your foreperson will send out any notes, any verdict. Any communication with the court should be in writing. The alternates do not have to be there, but have your phone number to my deputy. You may be called to replace a juror. You will be called when a verdict is reached. The alternates are 234, 230, 247, 292, 321, and 330. Those in the top row. The judge says, do not read any news report about this trial. If there were to be any, please accept my heartfelt gratitude for your service over the past 2 months. And even more, my deputy will provide my personal contact info. I could give you a tour of the courthouse. The alternates now leave. The judge says, here's the verdict sheet. Only if you find the defendant guilty of count 1, answer to each predicate. Not proved or proved. And did sex traffic involve Cassie or Jane? Count 2, 3, 4, and 5. We need to hear not guilty or guilty. The judge says from now on, your schedule is on your own. You will be provided with meals. Now the marshals will swear you in. They get sworn in. Now the jurors can head back to the jury room, and I want all to rise. AUSA Johnson says, we object to the inclusion of the subject lines of the BlackBerry messages like I'm so horny. Wow, this is like the 10th hour objection. Wow. Estavio says it's common for exhibits to include subject lines. BlackBerry messages are more akin to emails than to text messages. Judge says, let's have only neutral lists go to the jury. I'll trust the parties to provide an appropriate laptop to the juries. I'm going to stick around for a bit, but we may stay here for as long as they wish to deliberate. At the end of the day, we'll bring them in. The judge says, I appreciate the congeniality on both sides in this case. Anything more before we adjourn? Comey says no. Can we go to another floor of the courthouse and talk, I guess? The judge says, just give us your cell phone numbers. Adjourned. Okay? So we are now in deliberation. Okay? The jury will be deliberating. This could take any amount of time possible.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, Monday, June 30th, 2025. It's day 33 of U.S. v. Sean Combs, including the possible verdict today. I mean, deliberations will begin. Whether the verdict is today, we don't know. Jury instruction will be read by the judge. It wasn't put into the docket, which is kind of unfortunate. And then deliberations will begin, and at any time. Now, I'm assuming that there'll be some notes, and we'll be obviously live tweeting that. The notes that come out. Often then there's a negotiation of how to answer an oral question, legal question. And sometimes they'll ask for testimony, and then they got to go and redact it. Hopefully they've done a lot of the groundwork for this, because they're facing a deadline, and we'll get to it in a moment, as with the quote-unquote, and I'm putting it in quotation marks, big, beautiful bill, there's a deadline. Now, this deadline, whatever, July 4th is a holiday. So if the Diddy verdict jurors do not reach a verdict, they'll just have to be coming back on Monday. They could conceivably come in on Thursday, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll get that long. Let's transition. Actually, no, it's still yet more on the Diddy docket. We put up week 7, the book, closings to deliberations. It's actually the longest one so far because there were a lot of words last week. 2 long closings, and we covered them, and we also have some analysis and some other case, but weren't. So check that one out. I think that's on numerous other crypto cases.
Okay,
here we.
I want you guys to watch that a little bit, but let me see what's going on here. They have adjourned. So the jury is now deliberating. Whenever they're back, whenever they're back, they'll pop up back in court.
Thanks.
Did you ever ejaculate in her? Like, maybe it was like you got one off and he's like, oh, let me put.
Nah.
Okay.
And
the baby's yours, nigga.
Nah, never that. And the truth of the matter is, I never made it to orgasm from penetration.
Gotcha.
We would always do the.
That's interesting. And I'm not speaking about how loose her stuff is or whatever, but everybody says that with Cassie. They don't ejaculate from penetration. Number one, I don't think that's really all Cassie's fault. I think there's high pressure moment. You know you're supposed to perform. When you then find out it's Diddy, there's like just much more burden of expectation because you now, especially if this guy, he thought he was the only one fucking Cassie. He didn't think Diddy had a bunch of other people doing it. So he's thinking that, all the pressure is on me because I'm doing something that Diddy can't do. So it's very pressured,
Penetrate, because I was medicated up, man. I was on a bunch of pills. And I don't know if you ever over-medicated on pills, but you go numb. You can't feel nothing, right? So we would always finish sex, and then I would have to rub it out. I had to rub one out. So it was very direct. Huh?
You seen Cassie off the natural? Or you said you was on the pills?
Oh, duh, I was on every pill I could find, man. Like, I was uncomfortable, so I had to.
In your book, you describe erectile dysfunction as freezer meat.
Yeah.
That name is wild as fuck. How did you come up with that name in particular?
All right, so real talk, how I got the name. I was on vacation with this girl. We was in Turks and Caicos. And so we on this beach. Turks and Caicos got this beach, man, where you could walk like a mile out into the water and it comes to your waist. There. Yeah, it's the bomb, right? So we out there, and during this time, I was already dealing with the kind of erectile dysfunction issues, but it was mental. Right. But I'm out there in this paradise, and I didn't get anxiety, and we messing around in the water, and I got brick. And so when we messing around, she reached down, and when she grabbed me, she said, damn, this thing is hard as freezer meat, right? So she said it to me, and at the time with me already dealing with erectile dysfunction, getting that type of compliment was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Right. So that always stuck with me. And at the time, I didn't realize it was anxiety causing it. I came back with some dumb, it must be the Caribbean. You get that sun, and the sun from the Caribbean. And so I believed that was it. Yeah. But it kind of set a standard that I was trying to get back to. So I named the book In Search of Freezer Meat.
For men that are dealing with that, like, what would you tell them some things that they can do to come back from in that situation?
I mean, what I would tell them to do first and foremost is you got to understand it's mental, right? It's mental. And so what I was doing that was messing me up was I kept trying to fix a mental problem physically.
Right.
Was it stemming from the Cassie stuff?
The Cassie stuff contributed. That's why I put it in the book. So
hold on, champ. I'm grabbing Chick-fil-A, my lunch, before I go meet Lauren.
And a lot of dudes is messing up. You got a lot of guys that's younger that's using pills and using enhancements that really don't need it.
For sure.
Right? So I started the same thing. I started taking pills in my 30s when I didn't need it. And then you get into a scenario where now you're dependent on the pill. And if you get into a situation with pressure, because we all every now and then meet a girl that's like, yo, I got to put this down. I want to make sure I come correct. And if you run into a scenario where you don't perform, now you're thinking the pill didn't work for me. And so in the Cassie Diddy situation, what I would do is you're supposed to take one pill, 20 milligrams. And going into that situation, one pill, 20 milligrams was good. But the anxiety made me next time I'm gonna take 2 pills. Next time I'm gonna take 2 pills in a honey pack, whatever. And that don't do anything. Your blood vessels can only open up so much, and that's what pills do. So when you overdose on pills, it ain't working no more for you. But anxiety creates cortisol, which constricts your blood vessels. So I'm taking all these pills, doing all these things, not addressing the anxiety. So I would tell a dude, first thing you gotta understand that it's your mind, right? And then once you understand it's your mind, then you play around with what remedy you're gonna use and get yourself as comfortable as possible. And if that still doesn't work, like I say in my book, there's other things you can do. And I kind of chronicle all the things that I did to fix it leading up to the ultimate thing, which is an implant, and the biggest thing about it is don't give up.
Yeah. What was the worst thing that was causing it through your chapter? Like, what was the worst thing that you figured out for you that was causing the anxiety?
So the worst thing that I figured it out, and I got to keep it this way, it's the feedback from your lady or the woman that's in your mind, your life. Right? It's already, as guys, as we get older, we already understand we ain't the same dude when we was in our 20s. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna feel there's a difference. Even if you're still doing your thing sexually, you ain't that guy, right? And so what killed me was I had a woman that I was into, I'm dealing with her, I'm thinking I'm holding it down sexually, and then she ended up cheating on me. Right. And when I asked her what for, she blamed it on me. Oh, well, you weren't coming correct. I wasn't satisfied. I had things I wanted to do. So when you...
I ain't gonna lie, man. I think they stole my Chick-fil-A gang. It's just crazy. I went out there. I don't even see that shit, bro. It's all good. All right. Is my man Sean G on? I know Sean G gonna give it up. Sean G gonna give it up. What Long Crime is hitting for right now? We are on jury watch, chat. I think they're gonna probably opt to take lunch. I mean, they're adjourned, so it's like the judge says. And by the way, there's a timer here. The judge says they're gonna be sticking around. Let me see. Who should we go to? Yeah, Logic ain't been giving us some updates, man. What's up with my boy? Okay. Yeah, this nigga done a million.
My very first encounter when I showed up for what I thought was a party, Ms. Ventura agreed. I quoted a price, it's $200 for a dancer. She gives me a location and a time, and I show up to do a little show.
And that was when you met, was it Cassie that reached out to you?
It was, yes, it was Cassie that reached out to me.
Okay. And then after that, you know, and I want to make this clear. I'm not looking to, I have nothing against Diddy whatsoever. I don't know him. I only know what I'm hearing and what people have told me. But, you know, in my position always is innocent until proven guilty. He's got a trial. He'll go through the process. The jury will make a decision, and we'll see what happens after that. So I'm not here to lay anything heavy on Diddy or anything else. I'm just having a conversation with somebody that's in the know about certain things. And then, you know, you kind of notice some things with Cassie. This kind of evolved into something more than just a one-time deal with you, correct?
Yeah, I mean, in total, and I don't even have an exact amount. I estimated 8 to 12 times, and it was over a period of 2.5 years. So honestly, it could have been more. It's 12, 13 years ago. I don't have a clear indication of how many times or whatever, but I estimate 8 to 12 times.
And you got involved in these, were you given any specific instructions? Because I know you got involved in these freak-offs, correct?
Yeah, so my specific involvement was always the same. And so my very first encounter when I showed up for what I thought was a party, Miss Ventura greeted me at the door in a robe, which you can tell she was nude. So the minute she opened the door, it was an obvious scenario that this was going to be different than a party. And so when we went into the room, obviously there were no guests. It was just me and her at the time. And, you know, we got to kind of like the living room area of the suite. And I still, you know, tried to go the route as if it was a party. So I asked her, hey, where do you want me to change? And she immediately explained to me, look, I don't want you to dance. Me and my husband, we like to create a scene where we want you to change into underwear or a towel. And she pointed into the living room area, which was dimly lit, kind of a sexual ambiance. And all the furniture was covered with sheets. And she said, look, you're going to sit here. I'm going to be here. It was 2 couches adjacent from each other. And we're going to put baby oil on our body and create a scene environment. And at some point, my husband's going to come out to watch. And then she specifically told me, when her husband comes out, I'm not supposed to look at him. I'm not supposed to acknowledge him. I'm not supposed to speak to him. I'm supposed to do my best to act like he's not even there. And she handed me a handful of money. I counted it when I got into the bathroom, and at that time, it was $800. So I originally quoted $200. So now I got this beautiful woman in front of me. She hands me 4 times the amount. And it's like, well, hey, I'm going to try to make this work because, you know, it seemed like a nice payday and simple at the time, you know?
And was that the first time you met Diddy? Where you saw Diddy?
Well, so here's the thing. I didn't actually see him, right? When he did come into the room, and that was, I came out the bathroom with the towel and we started making this scene. And at some point from my peripheral, I could see him walk in the room, but he situated himself all the way across the room, kind of behind a table. It's like a table and chair setup. And he ended up being there. But the odd thing about it was he came in the room pretty much nude, but he had his face covered with, I believe it's called a hijab or a burqa. And this is what the Muslims women wear, where they completely cover their face. You can only see the eyes. So I really had no idea who he was. And initially coming in, I didn't recognize Cassie. She had on a wig.
Yo, that with a Yankee hat is crazy.
So the distinguishing stuff that would point her out there, her hairstyle, because she has like, at the time she had like a shaved hairstyle, it wasn't able to be recognized. And I really had no idea who they were till much further into the encounters.
So at this point, I mean, it's a sexual encounter, but there was nothing criminal or illegal done at that point during the whole session, I would say.
Yeah, nothing criminal and illegal about the session itself. I mean, the only, I guess, illegal scenario would be is the prostitution itself, because it was money in exchange. But this specific situation we're talking about, there wasn't even any sex.
Right.
My very first encounter, I was told it was creating a sexy scene. We created it with just kind of rubbing oil on each other, and she would do gestures. I would do the same, but there was no actual sexual activity between us. And then at some point, who I'm thinking is her husband, Mr. Combs, got up. He left the room. She followed him out, came back and told me, hey, that was great. It was perfect. Thank you. Handed me an additional $1,200 and said, hey, look, I'm comfortable with you. When we come back to town, is it okay if I call you again? And I'm like, absolutely, sure. And she did at that time offer me the option to finish. She said, hey, do you want to finish? Which, I understand to be, did I want to orgasm? And I actually declined. I wasn't comfortable with the situation. And I'm trying to be professional, right? Because I believe what the circumstances are. So I said, hey, look, this is not about me. This is for you and your husband. If you're good, I'm good.
In hindsight, I take that question of her asking him to finish, or if he wants to finish, they're trying to get that nigga nut. Yo, Diddy's doing some weird nut harvest and shit, bro. Gotta be.
And I declined finishing, partially in transparency because the uncomfortability of the situation, I probably would have had an issue getting an erection and finishing anyway. So I declined, and she said fine. And from there, I headed home.
And was that the only encounter you had with her, or were there more?
No, that was just the first. Like I said, it went to 8 to 12. So the next encounter, it was pretty much the same, but there was conversations prior to the sexual activity about my sexual health, her sexual health, and the desire to actually do more than just a rub down. So that's when the sexual encounter started.
And let me ask you, Sheree, this was considered a freak off, right? Even though there was only just the two of you and Diddy present? Because my impression was that there were always a lot of people present at these freak offs.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception that, Mr. Combs he's known for throwing these elaborate parties that you can go to a place of the party, and I guess there's sexual activity. And then there's these kind of scenarios with Miss Ventura where it's just him, her, and a male, and another male creating a sexual environment, and that's being described the same way. So it just appears that anything that he does with a sexual nature, even on a smaller scale, all these huge parties, they're all going under the same umbrella as freak off, which I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what everything is being described at. I know when I see myself reported in the media, it says I was a part of a freak off. So this is considered that.
Got it.
You were my boy.
During any of this time, did you ever see any indication that Cassie might have been in an abusive situation with Diddy?
Not at all. Not at all. I always felt it was consented. I always felt everything was, I always felt she was in her right frame of mind. She didn't appear to be under the influence of any drugs or anything like that. And
It really surprises me that they brought this guy as a witness. Does he seem credible? Yes. Does he seem credible? Yes. But he's not really saying anything but, oh, okay. Yeah, I was an escort or a dancer at first, and it kind of turned into them paying me for sex. But he's kind of saying that none of those acts were non-consensual.
Never seen any interaction between them that seemed something that was distressful for her. The only thing that I did say in my testimony was that I saw moments of what I would consider frustration and her reaction, but that was based on directions. Like during our encounters, he would give directions, which was mainly about, is candle lit? Could, move the candle a little bit more, move whatever. Can you move to the left, move him to the right? You know what I'm saying? Like these things. And sometimes they were repetitive and very specific. So I would see maybe like you know what I'm saying? Like that type of stuff, but nothing that would resemble her being in distress.
Do you know if were these being filmed at all, or they were just encounters for his pleasure only?
So I don't know. It was always in a dark room, and it could have very well been a camera or something set up, but nothing that I knew was present or that I consented to. I had no idea.
Yeah, the reason I ask you that, because I think, part of the allegations against Diddy is that he would have these films so that he can have a blackmail situation. And again, these are the allegations not coming from me, that he would be able to blackmail if anybody were to turn on him, but you didn't get any indication of that.
No. I mean, I could have very well been filmed, but I have no idea.
Let me ask you, on cross-examination, how did the defense try to portray you? Did they try to beat you up at all? Did they try to discredit you?
No, that was surprising to me because it was actually the opposite. They actually took a route of creating more credibility. So I guess once they heard my initial testimony, and I'm saying I didn't see any aggression, it seemed consented. The attorney, I think his name was Xavier Donaldson, he went the route of bringing up the fact that I've been a male entertainer for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's accurate. When you walk into a room as a male entertainer and it's a room full of women you never met, you have to quickly assess the room because you're trying to entertain them in a sexual nature. So I have to read the room to make sure whoever I'm going to is comfortable with the activity. So he kind of harped on that. Look, you've been doing this 25 years. Would you ever go to dance on a woman or engage with a woman who was uncomfortable with you interacting with her? And the answer is absolutely not. You know, I have to be able to read the room, get to a woman's comfort level and assess that. So then he kind of shifted that narrative to the situation with Miss Ventura. Well, look, based on your knowledge, your expertise of doing this all these years, if you would have noticed her being uncomfortable or in a place out of her mind or not in a proper state, would you have proceeded? And the answer is absolutely not. So I was expecting kind of a tough, because all of my, they do the mock courses.
Right.
So, and their expectation was to discredit and stuff like that, but he actually went a completely different lane and provided more credibility.
Well, that makes sense to me because I think their major defense here in all of this is that all of this was consensual. Nobody was abused. Nobody was forced into this. Nobody was, physically abused, but this was all consensual relationships and sex. So it would make sense that they would treat you that way. That's why I asked that question. Did Cassie ever, say to you that she was, obviously we saw the video of what happened in the hotel, so we know that there was that one incident. But did Cassie ever express to you that Diddy was abusive to her in any way?
No, I mean, we actually, other than very, very cordial initial conversation, when I would arrive, hey, how's work, how's things or whatever, we didn't get into a lot of personable conversation. It was kind of like stuff. So in terms of her confiding in me of anything that could have been going on, it wasn't. I mean, most of the conversation was, again, just checking in on what's going on with me and surfacing. One time I had like a scar on my arm. She mentioned, hey, I got some scar cream, gave it to me, try that. And she more or less just thanked me for keeping their identity and what they do private, in terms of, obviously this has been going on for years and they didn't get any feedback or indication that I'm talking about it publicly and putting their business out. So no, absolutely not. I had no indication.
And when this ended with you, you just weren't called anymore? Did it end on a good note, or they just didn't need your services anymore? How did it end?
So I never had a full reason why it ended, but my assumption was it had went a long period of time where I had not been called, let's say maybe about 6 months. And during that period of time, I had an injury. I tore my bicep. So, and anybody knows about that injury, it's a rough injury. Mm-hmm. You can't work out, you can't do anything. It's a long healing process. So after going through that healing process and getting called, me, myself, I know the physical condition I'm usually in is not the same. And also with that long period of time, we're in kind of like a sexual scenario. And one of the directions was very specific. We were doing kind of like preliminary stuff. And one of the instructions was he wanted to see penetration. So he kind of walked over in the middle of us doing a massage thing. And he actually threw up like a wad of condoms on the couch. And he basically says, I want you to, and honestly, the time in between, It was never really a comfortable scenario for me anyway. I couldn't perform. So I always assumed the fact that I could not perform that time, and I'm showing up months later, not in great physical shape and stuff like that. I kind of felt like, well, this is a fail. I did not make the fantasy that I was hired for. So I assumed that could be a reason why I wouldn't be called back. So that's my assumption. But that's kind of how the last situation went. And that was the last time I was called.
And you never spoke to Cassie again after that?
No communication.
That was it. Nor did he.
No, so here's the thing. I never had communication with Diddy the entire time. No, ironically, I never spoke to him. I never had even direct eye contact with him. The first time after all these instances that I had direct eye contact with him was leaving the courtroom after I testified.
Wow. And I think it's fair to say, Sheree, that you have no interest in which way this turns out. You know, if he's guilty, he's guilty. If he's innocent, he's innocent. You have no horse in this race, so to speak, correct?
I don't, man. Actually, that is something that I really wanted to portray as solid as possible with my testimony. You know, I am compelled to be here and I have to give the facts of what I was involved in and what I saw, but I didn't want to have any bias or anything associated with my testimony that seemed like I was in favor of either party. They got 12 jurors there. That's their job to decide.
You know, I think that's really commendable. Having been to trial 5 times myself, you know, the best witnesses are those that have no interest in the outcome. You're up there to tell the truth, and that's it. Whatever way it works out, it works out. So that's commendable, and I have to say that. And again, I'm a veteran of those situations. Let me ask you, you wrote a book, In Search of Freezer Meat is the title, right?
Yeah.
Explain that title to me.
Okay. All right. Wow. All right. We're getting there. We are getting there, people. We're getting there. Okay. Let's see. We're literally just kind of just waiting.
Every single witness, Sean Combs' purported chief of staff, the main it all, but I want to let you know about what's going on with these jury instructions. So, of course, the Judge Arun Subramanian, went through all of the elements of all of the charges: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution, but arguably the most complex is racketeering conspiracy. And for instance, the judge said the government is going to have to prove that there was a mutual understanding to cooperate in a criminal enterprise, one that the government says that Sean Combs led. They can infer that. Actions speak louder than words, because you're not going to have, you know, an example. By the way, this is a shot of what the jury deliberation room looks like, because you're not going to have them all, evidence of them all signing a contract to engage in or agree to engage in criminal activity. Was there an inferred agreement? And this was really interesting, talking about the 8 underlying predicate crimes that the government has to prove at least 2 within a 10-year time frame. So there's bribery, arson, forced labor, kidnapping, drug offenses. And I thought this was interesting. I want to call this out. The judge said that witnesses who were given immunity in this case, they should be examined with greater care than ordinary witnesses.
Oh, there was care.
There were a number of witnesses who testified under immunity. That witnesses who were permitted to testify under pseudonyms, for example, Mia, for example, Jane, that bears on your evaluation of their credibility. That the defendant had no responsibility to testify. You can't attach any significance to that. In other words, because Sean Combs chose not to testify, you can't use that against him. This was interesting as well. Voluntary intoxication may actually negate the intent requirement of the RICO predicates. We'll talk about what that means. Uncalled witnesses. For example, Christina Coram, whose name came up, I don't know, every single day with almost every single witness. These people who were mentioned but never called as witnesses, each side could have called them. That's what the judge said. Don't speculate or consider this. And then finally, when they were sent back to deliberate, the judge said, the schedule is your own. You're going to be provided meals. They've begun their deliberations. And if they want to continue past 5 p.m., they may be able to do so. We're going to keep a very careful eye out and ear out if we get any juror questions or what's going to happen. But right now, I want to take your questions. So I am joined right now by celebrity criminal defense attorney from McMonigle, Perry, McHugh, Meshach, and Davis. Brian McMonigle is with us. We're also joined by criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla and Law and Crime's very own host of Scandal outside of the federal courthouse right now, Sierra Gillespie. It's great to have you all here. I said all-star panel. I wasn't lying. Sierra, I'm going to start with you because we got a super chat question from Diana YX3GU. Thank you so much for the super chat question. Does the jury return home at the end of the day, or are they sequestered in a hotel? What do we know, Sierra?
This is a really great question because especially when it comes to a trial like this where so much is on the line, huge stakes for P. Diddy. I mean, if he's convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars in prison. So we want to make sure the jury is paramount. So that is a question. Could they be sequestered? Will they, won't they? And the answer is they will not be. They were not. So every night after, the whatever happened in the courthouse behind me, they listened to all the testimony, went through the evidence, wrote in their notebooks, and then got on the subway, took a train or an Uber, walked home wherever they went, and that was their night. So over the weekend, this is something I've been thinking a lot about, Jesse. Over the weekend, after we heard closings from both sides and the rebuttal, they went back home to wherever they're going. So to me, I'm thinking it's got to be going through their minds, right? They're going to be thinking about what they heard on Friday and really throughout the entire case so far. I'm sure it's kind of been in their minds as they're leading into deliberation. And as it continues, by the way, they'll still go home tonight once everything's finished. If we're still deliberating tomorrow, or they're still deliberating tomorrow, I should say, they'll go home. No need to stay in a hotel or be sequestered.
Yeah, if I had to take a guess, unless they were close to a verdict today, I think they're going to want to go home by 5 o'clock. I don't believe that we're coming back with a verdict today. I think this case is so complicated. They have so much material to go through. I think this is going to take several days. Maybe we'll put up a poll. Maybe we have a poll up about how long we think the jury deliberation process is going to take.
We should do a poll on that too, chat. How long do you think it will take? Shit, I'm a betting man. I think it's going to take 3 days. I think 3 days. I don't think they want to come back after July 4th. And I think today's too early. And I think tomorrow they're going to get down a lot of heavy lifting. And they're going to finally, whoever is the person who's voting on either side, who's kind of hanging this thing up, they're going to cave on Wednesday.
Let me bring back in Brian and Mauricio. Brian, you ready for this? We got a question from @Leon the Spesh One. I don't blame Leon the Spesh One asking this, but what's RICO? What's RICO, Brian?
Well, it's a statute that's existed for decades, and it was created to really shut down organized crime, but it requires precisely that, racketeering, a racketeering enterprise, a conspiracy to commit racketeering. And you need, as is reflected in the statute itself, a criminal enterprise. So the first thing the government has to prove that there was a criminal enterprise. The second thing they have to prove that criminal enterprise engaged in at least 2 predicate acts that had been highlighted in the indictment of the many that were highlighted. And they've got to prove those acts beyond a reasonable doubt in furtherance of the conspiracy, which is the racketeering. And if the government's able to do that, then this gentleman's going to spend a long time in prison. And if they're not, as I suspect they might not, he could be acquitted of these charges. But, it's interesting because this statute long ago was created to deter organized criminal activity. And now we're seeing it in cases like this with wealthy individuals who have the money and the means by which to get together with other people and sometimes commit criminal acts. So it'll be interesting. To me, it's a very significant test case for the racketeering statute.
I agree with you. Look, the prosecution's narrative is he had these assistants, he had these bodyguards, they knew exactly what was going on. They knew exactly what was happening behind closed doors. They helped set up the sexual events. They helped clean them up. They were instrumental in the kidnapping. They were instrumental in forced labor. They were instrumental in drug distribution. They were instrumental in bribery. He couldn't have done it alone. Defense's perspective, and we heard it from the defense's closing argument with Mark Agnifilo, who did he conspire with? You didn't hear one person talk about a criminal enterprise, say they were part of a criminal enterprise. Christina Coram, that's the co-conspirator. She's not a co-conspirator. And I think it was interesting because Mark Agnifilo had said, you know, if it was John Gotti and Sammy the Bull was the co-conspirator, you think people are calling Sammy up for help? I mean, because the idea was that the alleged victims were calling Christina Coram up for help. So it raised kind of an interesting question there. Mauricio, I go to you. We got a question from LaRob Show 6300. Question is he cooked on the Mann Act charge, so that's transportation to engage in prostitution, or does he have a shot? And overall, what's your gut feeling on the rest of the charges? More likely conviction or acquittal?
I'm thinking more likely conviction when it comes to the Mann Act of transporting, persons for the sake of prostitution. I don't know. I think they have them dead to rights. I've heard a lot of testimony about a lot of people that were directly engaged in it, and
it's hard for me to take this nigga serious because he was the guy who was representing the killers of X, and he did such a botched job of just making up all type of wild, crazy theories. And after I seen what he did there, it's hard for me to just like listen to him and take him serious. The nigga wanted me and Drake to get up on the stand to prove that the niggas didn't kill X.
And that came out through multiple witnesses, and I think it was something that he wasn't really worried about because I don't think. And I've said this on.
Inside that courtroom, she is with us, everybody. Fan favorite. Elizabeth, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. So I'm going to get right into it. We got questions coming in for you. This is from RSS9965. What will Elizabeth Milner do the rest of the day while the jury deliberates? Will she remain in court in case jury has jury questions?
Yep, well, I will definitely be back inside that courtroom again once, I do my hit with you, Jesse, once I chat with you guys and say hello. But my plan is to go get some food, go upstairs, see what's going on up there. But I have a book with me just in case because I know it's going to be a long deliberation and I don't expect them to come back with a verdict anytime soon. But we'll see. You never know.
All right. Well, I'm sure we're going to get questions about what the book is, but I'll allow our viewers to ask. Okay, Elizabeth, RSS 9965. Has Elizabeth made any press court observer friends? If yes, can she bring them on as guests during our next break?
Oh my God, I should go find them. I feel like they're all kind of scattered around here a little bit. Some of them are probably doing their own live hits. Some of them are probably still inside the courtroom right now, just kind of waiting to see what's about to happen. What we do know is that, and I'm pretty sure you probably already reported on this, Jesse, is that they've finally and officially selected a foreperson. So that's probably the biggest news that we've come out since the jury's gone back to that room to start their deliberations. But I'd love to bring on some of the friends. Like, we should bring in like all 21 of us and have just one big giant like live shot and conversation. But if I can find someone, I might bring them on. Who knows? Just stick around and stay tuned.
If you try to get 21 people onto this live shot, our control room's going to have a heart attack. So I'm going to probably advise against. Yeah, they're going to have a heart attack. So I'm going to advise against that. Let me ask you this. Jury instructions can be rather bland. I think they are so important in this kind of case. Was there anything that stood out to you today about them? I think the judge even said, I'm going to try to make it a little interesting for you. Was it interesting? Was there anything that stood out to you? Maybe it was about the racketeering charge. Maybe it was about sex trafficking. As I mentioned before, I thought it was interesting, how to weigh witnesses who testified under a pseudonym, witnesses who testified under an immunity agreement. What stood out to you?
Yeah, well, definitely the judge was like, oh, well, I'm going to try to make this interesting, but no offense to the judge at all. It wasn't as interesting as I think he probably wanted to make it for the jury, but he did do it in a pretty quick speed to the point where I was like, oh, this is it. And then they're done. Then they went back to deliberate. But I think some of the points that kind of stood out to me was, one, that these jurors have to be impartial. Two, I think another thing that stood out was just the indictment versus how important the indictment is to the actual jury deliberation, in that you shouldn't be taking the indictment as just the word and that's just the say so and that's how things go. I think also the jury, because we discussed this earlier, Jesse, about whether or not will the jury have in their mind that the defense didn't put up any witnesses, that the defendant didn't testify in his own defense. defense. But the judge, according to his instructions, said you can't take that into accountability take that into account, I should say, only because the burden of proof is all on the government. The burden of proof is all on the prosecution, and they are the ones who have to prove their case. Because, and despite what a lot of people may want to assume, is that Sean Combs is not guilty, he's innocent until proven guilty. And so I think a lot of people, especially the jurors, have to keep in mind that, they may have had thoughts in their head, but until they all have that discussion over at that table, I think it's a round table too, in that quiet room, in the courtroom, for that matter, I think that they all have to kind of really talk through everything. That just because we outside in the press who have been covering this case since the start may have our opinions about things, but it's up to these 12 jurors, these 4 women and these 8 men, to decide what is the fate of Sean Diddy Combs, and it's up to them to be making that decision.
Yeah, again, we are in verdict watch right now. They just went back to deliberate. If there is a court update, if there's anything that happens, we will bring it to you live in real time. Elizabeth, before you have to jump back in, you got a bunch of compliments. Poison Ivy 3, Elizabeth's hair is popping. We got Smarty Pants 1225, super chat comment. Thank you so much. Queen Lizzie, your hair looks glorious today. Everybody loving your hair. Thank you. And then Splunks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Splunk's mama asks, Elizabeth, what are you currently reading?
Oh, that's a good one. And don't judge me, everyone who is watching this live stream. I'm reading Wicked. Why? Because I'm so excited for Wicked Part 2 to come out. And I was like, let me just read the entire book. And I know it's a lot different from the movie, but I was so excited. So that is my book of choice to be reading while the jury deliberates in this case.
And I'll tell you what, I don't blame you for reading something completely inundated with a lot. I don't blame you at all. Elizabeth Milner, great to see you and considering. So hope everybody can check that out. Celtic Girl Kaz, thank you, sir. They are at.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's been my experience that what they'll do is they'll kind of start with the first count because that count is first in the indictment. But they may find very early on that they don't have unanimity on anything. And they may then jump to the third count and say to themselves, well, you know what? We all seem to be agreement here. Let's start here. Let's look at the easy stuff before we get to the more complex stuff and see if they could find a unanimous verdict on the third count. Jurors do what jurors want to do in that deliberation room. And, we talked a lot about how long it's going to take for them to deliberate, when they'll come back with a verdict. We don't know if this jury is going to be splintered. We don't know right now if of these, 8 men and 4 women, or if I think I have that right, where they stand and if there's going to be an impasse on one count or multiple counts. But where they begin, they usually start with the indictment, and they usually will track the indictment because they're going to have a copy of it back there with them. And what ops they hit along the way might dictate how they pivot and then look on to different charges.
And I wonder if they'll start with racketeering, or they'll start with sex trafficking, or maybe they'll start with transportation to engage in prostitution, which again seems to be like the more streamlined, more simplified charge to potentially convict Sean Combs on. And that's not advocating for him to be found guilty. That's just, in my legal opinion, feels like the strongest case for the prosecution. Let me go to you, Mauricio.
Jesse, what's interesting about that, I wanted to add was, let's assume that this jury only convicted him of that third count.
Yeah.
Under federal sentencing guidelines, he's only exposed to, believe it or not, 15 to 21 months of incarceration on that count.
Up to 10 years, though. Up to 10 years.
Yeah, but sentencing guidelines are followed by the judges routinely, and nobody gets a statutory max on any kind of a crime who's never been convicted of a crime before. So the guidelines this judge will start with for that count is only 15 to 21 months. So you talk about a victory.
Wow. 15 to 21 months. Let's say he gets 50. Well, we imagine that he would get found guilty on both of those. You run both of them concurrent. Let's say he gets 15 months. If he gets 15 months, ladies and gentlemen, we could see Diddy out in a month or two. Wow.
For the defense if that were to happen. It'd be a home run. He's almost got that time in.
Yeah, because think about it like this. He's looking at potentially life in prison for racketeering conspiracy. He's looking up to minimum 15 years in prison on sex trafficking. So yeah, 100% that would be a win. Okay, Mauricio, we go to you at Stella K80 or K80. How much does a lawyer's charisma, likability, and skill with the razzle-dazzle influence the outcome of a big trial such as this? Great reporting and hi from the UK. Thank you so much for the great question, and thank you for watching abroad. So I guess, yeah, how much does a lawyer's charisma, likability, skill, razzle-dazzle, how much does it affect the jury?
I think it's everything. I think it's everything. You have to keep them entertained. You have to keep them paying attention. They have to, at some level, like you, and they have to, at some level, like your client. If you expect for all of them to acquit your client, I've said this previously. I mean, when I first started doing trial work, I would look at other attorneys, and sometimes I would be like, oh, that guy's too dramatic. And after doing this for 23 years, I can tell you that you can never be too dramatic. You got to use props. You got to speak loud. You got to connect one-on-one with jurors, you know, eye contact. They have to really believe in you, and they have to believe in your client if you expect for them to acquit your client. So yeah, it really is everything. And in this particular case, they had some of the best in his defense.
It's a shame, Mauricio, that you are so timid and you're so quiet, and it's a shame you don't have the razzle-dazzle, Mauricio. I mean, after speaking and knowing you for so long, I wish you had that, unfortunately. No, you are, I could see you in a courtroom. I could see the jurors gravitating towards you. It's why you're such an excellent attorney, which now, let me look at this. Look at this. We've asked a question that I think it's important, because to be these jurors, not an easy task. Being on this trial for 7 weeks, now there's deliberations and everything they've seen. We asked the question, a poll, have you served as a juror on a state or federal jury? 14% said yes, 86% say no. Yeah, not a lot of people. Okay, Brian, I have to ask you, this is my question. Voluntary intoxication, negating elements or negating criminal intent for the predicates, the 8 underlying predicate crimes. Can you explain that to me? How does that exactly work?
Well, I'd really like to see that definition, because that was interesting to me when you said it. But certainly if someone chooses to voluntarily take drugs or alcohol, it could negate, in many instances, the ability for them to complain of coercion, to complain that they were victimized. If it's a co-conspirator in the case and that individual is intoxicating themselves, they have a hard time arguing that they were in league with or conspiring with somebody because they aren't in the right frame of mind to have done so and shared that, what we call that specific intent, or that intent to commit the crime. But I was interested I'd be more interested to see what that related to and which particular count. Because
let me throw something out, what it might be.
Yeah.
A big theme is for sex trafficking, did he know that they didn't consent? Okay, that's the allegation, right? They didn't consent. And the idea would be, how was he supposed to know? Maybe he didn't know. I don't know if that makes sense. Would that make sense to you, Brian? Like, he didn't know because of the state that he was in?
With sex trafficking, how do you posture that? I mean, you've got everybody admitting that they're taking drugs, everybody admitting that in the beginning, at least, of these freak-offs, they were willing to do so. So I think what the judge is basically instructing this jury to do is to look carefully at the issue of intoxication, because you're not going to be able to complain in one instance that you're a victim and that you've been victimized. When you voluntarily engaged in criminal activity or freak-offs that are, sexual activity, and because you voluntarily intoxicated yourself, you now say, well, I don't know if I had the ability to consent. That doesn't really fly. I think the best thing the defense has going for them is that each and every one of these women admitted under oath, which you never get in a racketeering conspiracy, that they voluntarily engaged in the activity to begin with, that they consented to it to begin with. And then ultimately they would testify that they got to a point where they didn't want to do it anymore, and they became coerced at that point. I think that's what the judge is striking at, and I think that's a problem for the prosecution for each of these witnesses.
See, the other way of looking at it is it makes it more credible, right? If they were really going after Diddy, they would just say the worst stuff. We never consented to any of this. I mean, the way to say it is, and this is what the prosecution in their closing argument, we're not saying every event was sex trafficking. We're not saying every event even meets the threshold of sex trafficking. They could consent to 1 time, to 2 times, but it doesn't mean they consent overall. Now the defense, or consent to everything. Now the defense said, let me get this straight. So they consent to 75 freak-offs. On the 76, that jumps to sex trafficking. Is that a big jump? Again, it's a gray area. Mauricio, we got super chat questions coming in. This is from Myra2813. Myra2813, thank you so much. Do you think the government will try him again if there is a hung jury or a mistrial?
Wow, that's a great question. Usually in my experience, when they get hung juries on high-profile cases, they immediately, alert everybody, including the press, that they intend to retry the case. I can't think of an exception in my career or in my memory of high-profile cases. But this one, if they get a hung jury, I think that they're going to have to really have discussions on, number one, do you want to incur the expense? At the end of the day, this has cost millions and millions of dollars for the government to pursue this case. And, legal experts, people that we have on our panel, people that know about the law, question the decision on whether or not this was, like Brad Cohen says, a state case on steroids, and it never belonged in federal court to start off with. So I think this is going to be one of those special cases where if they do get a hung jury, they're really going to have to sit down and think about whether they want to, put everybody through this again.
Well, let me follow that up with you, Mauricio, because it matters what they might be hung on, right? Because KC 7480 says, can the jury find him guilty on some charges and hung on the other? Then would he be back in court on only those charges? So, Mauricio, I guess it becomes a question, right? If they find him guilty on transportation to engage in prostitution, but they're hung on racketeering or they're hung on sex trafficking, and it matters the split. Let's say there was 1 or 2 holdouts and everybody else was voting in favor of guilty. I mean, they could find that information out. I think that would influence their decision whether they retry him. No, Mauricio?
Yeah, I think so. But I think if they convict them on one thing, that's going to be more of a motivation for them not to put everybody through this again. You know what I mean? The prosecution could chalk it up to a win. No, we got him on something. But this is a very, very particular case of people's careers are going to be on the line. I'm not talking about the people that are in the courtroom, but the people that really motivated this case to be brought in federal court. They're going to have a decision to make if they do hang them on any one of these counts.
Okay,
let's not forget that we've got a new Department of Justice right now, and the decisions are going to be made by DOJ, and we have a new Attorney General, and I'm not so sure.
A new state prosecutor as well. Not state prosecutor, U.S. attorney. So Damian Williams was the person who brought the case. He's no longer, he resigned as soon as Trump won because he knew he was going to get replaced and fired. So rather than wait for Trump to replace him, he said, I'm out.
Sure that politics won't move into play here if there's a hung jury.
You make a good point because there's all this conversation about whether or not if he's convicted would he get a federal pardon from the president. Let me throw this to you, Brian. This is from Titan Guy 8308. It's a super chat question. Thank you so much. If found not guilty, will Diddy get his oils, his drugs, his guns, and videos back?
He absolutely is entitled to get back everything that he legally possessed, and I assume he legally possessed possessed all of those items.
Yeah, the guns with the scratch-off serial numbers, he's definitely not getting back.
So anything that he legally possessed, technically he must have returned to him. I'm not so sure he'll be suffering the embarrassment of asking for it all back, but he just might. I don't know. I hope he doesn't need it anymore.
Here's your carton of
He
baby
will.
oil.
He will.
Yeah.
He's not going to stop the freak-offs. If he gets not guilty, immediate freak-off.
Well, remember, let me bring in Sierra Gillespie on this. Because Sierra, when he was arrested, he had evidence of freak-offs in the hotel room, right? He had materials with him when he was arrested in September of 2024.
Yes, you're right. I had to laugh at what Mauricio was saying, that if he is acquitted, immediate freak off. I mean, maybe. Who's to say anything is possible? We've been talking about like how any sort of verdict could come and we'd be shocked, but also not shocked because anything is possible. And yeah, it does seem, based on testimony, based on the evidence we've seen, or jurors rather have seen, that there is video documentation of these freak-offs, that he liked to watch it or at least have it in his possession, which, yes, at the time of his arrest, September 2024, almost a year ago at this point, yes, that's what he has with him. Interesting choice, but a lot of the choices that he has are pretty interesting in general, so I don't know. If he's acquitted, maybe he goes out and gets some more baby oil and lube. I don't know.
Well, I don't think he's becoming a sponsor for Johnson & Johnson anytime soon, but I'll tell you this much, Sierra.
We don't know.
Look, the time frame matters, right? When you're talking about these crimes, they have to say it went past 2019. They have to say it continued basically up until his arrest. That helps their case. So the fact that when he was arrested, he has evidence purportedly of these, and if we're treating freak-offs or Wild King nights as crimes, that helps the prosecution. Okay, we got this question from LaRob Show 6300, Sierra. What time did the jurors wrap up today? Is there a chance the judge lets them deliberate into the evening if they want, or is there a strict cutoff for the day?
This is a really good question because it varies depending on case, right? I know a lot of our viewers here have probably watched many a trial here on Law and Crime, and it varies depending on the judge or the state. Now we're in federal court, and the answer is, I don't know when we're going to be done for today, okay? So it's really going to be up to the jurors. If they, are really close to something and they feel like they want to wrap it up at 5, okay, they can, or rather if they want to keep going, it's up to them and their discretion. So it's kind of TBD right now how long we're going to be here today. I mean, I'll tell you, we're going to be here. Elizabeth is in the courtroom now. I'm going to be outside until we get the okay, they're done for the night. But it's really up to the jurors at this point. It's in their hands in so many ways.
Oh, absolutely. And let me throw a super chat to you because we're hogging all the super chats. Sierra gets a super chat too. Don't think we're leaving you out of super chats. Got a super chat from Melanie Fox, 4314. Thank you so much. Sierra, what's your prediction for the verdict?
I mean, this is difficult. I wish I had a magic 8-ball for nostalgia reasons and because I would like to know. Although, to be fair, would a magic 8-ball tell me the answer? I'm not entirely sure. My guess is a mixed verdict. I think that that's most likely. I do think that there is enough evidence for a conviction in some way. Again, we've talked about this. I wouldn't be surprised whatever happens, but I think overall the strongest one has got to be transportation to engage in prostitution. That's what I would have said prior to closings. I do still think it's pretty strong. However, after closings, I think RICO might have been clinched too. So it might be all of them, but I'm going to say mixed just to be safe.
I've said it time and time and again, the closing arguments in this case, I think the whole trial is built around them. I think this was a complicated case. Both sides needed to lay out in a very digestible way whether or not this was RICO, whether or not it wasn't, whether or not they met the elements or they didn't. And I think both sides did a really strong job. The transportation to engage in prostitution, I mean, if I had to side, I think the prosecution nailed it there. But you got up in the bag with sex trafficking and racketeering. By the way,
Holy, Big Papa Zoe, thank you for the $2 on Super Chat. He said, yo, holy, first day out freak-offs in the making. Yeah. Yo, let me tell you this. Let me create a scenario, which I think this is completely possible now that I forgot the name of that lawyer, but he's really good. I like him when he's on Law and Crimes. He said, yo, if Diddy gets found guilty of those federal prostitution charge, transportation for the purpose of engaging in prostitution, those hold, the minimum is 15 to 21 months, and sentencing guidelines usually suggest that around that range for someone who's never been convicted of a federal offense or really any offense before, at least in terms of felony, would be what he would get. Let's say both of those charges, he gets found guilty 2 out of 5, as I've actually predicted, and they say, all right, cool, we're giving him 15 months. Like 15 months. When did Diddy get arrested? Who the fuck is this? When did Diddy get arrested? This is September, right? Yeah, he got arrested in September. So it's almost September. Yeah, we're approaching like 10 months. Again, 15 months. Let me do the calculation here on the side. You would have to do 85%, right? That's what 15 times 0.85. Yeah. So he's kind of, if you ask me, he's pushing. Yeah, he's at 10 months now. Diddy's at 10 months now. So Diddy has served 10 months in jail. If he gets 15 months, he would need to serve 13 months to make the 85% threshold to be released. If he's at 10 months, he spends 3 more months in jail. He's good. So he just lost a year of his life, right? A year of his life and probably, maybe $150 million. Which again, at least you got your freedom. You're not in jail for life. But theoretically, I'm not predicting a clean sweep where he just walks out of here. So I'm predicting he's going to do some time. And the time that I'm predicting that he's going to do, he's going to still be out before Christmas.
By the way, I want to let everybody know something. We have incredible viewers. We have incredible questions. And I want to let you know that right now, we're announcing this. We have the #1 live stream on YouTube right now for the Diddy Verdict Watch. That's right. So this is amazing.
Don't tell me they passed us.
It's all due to you guys. Please stay with us for the remainder of the day as we continue our coverage.
I'm going to have to cut my stream because I got to go meet up with Lauren. So when we get up there, we got to be #1 again. How much? We only have 15,000. Yeah, they passed us. They have 17,000. It's all good. We'll pass them again.
We're going to do this.
We've been #1
all day. We're going to do this through the verdict. We're going to do this.
And actually, we really are #1 because on my shit it says 23,000, but that's adding other platforms. So whatever.
The rest of the week, as we are in Verdict Watch, we really make this show. We produce all of this content for you guys. This is all. Strongest part they had in their closing argument was saying what I mentioned before. You might say a lot of these episodes were consensual. A lot of them don't meet the requirements of sex trafficking. But I'm going to give you specific examples from Cassie and Jane where it was sex trafficking. So where they talk about Cassie, the 2016 incident, right? The hotel tape. The idea that there was a freak-off happening or she had left a freak-off and it wasn't maybe completed, but she was leaving. She's beaten by Sean Combs, dragged in the back in the direction of that room where there was a sex worker, checks off a number of the requirements of sex trafficking. Another example, she's sitting next to him on a plane. He purportedly shows her these sex tapes, threatens to release them. So you have a travel component, you have a threat component. They land. He demands a freak-off. He gets a freak-off. Those are two concrete examples. With Jane, there's an example, aside from the allegations that she was forced to do this when she was sick or exhausted. There was a violent episode she talked about, June 2024, beaten. He says, take this bleeping pill. You better go back out there. All the text messages from Jane where she is expressing reluctance to not engage in these hotel nights, particularly after Cassie filed her lawsuit. The jury, do you think the jury is going to weed out and say, you know what, I think there was a lot that they consented to, but it doesn't mean they consented to everything. And maybe even though Mark Agnifilo says, oh my gosh, you're going to make the jump from consensual to sex trafficking, maybe they will make that jump. What do you think?
Just like someone can say, can make the jump that, a woman consented in the beginning of sexual intercourse, and then at some point she negated the consent, and whether it was rape or not. So the fact that you can withdraw your consent, and especially the video, the violent attack, at the end of the day, if you believe that P. Diddy did the things that the government is accusing him of, the multiple day interrogation, the firebombing the car, he's acting like a criminal. And even though this RICO may be WICO, it doesn't mean that even if I have a problem with the law, it doesn't mean that they've satisfied the elements of the law and that he may be guilty of sex trafficking and of RICO.
Did you just say WICO? Because if you did,
yeah.
Do we not coin that somewhere? We got a trademark attorney on set?
Maybe RICO.
That's a freako.
But it can still stick.
You know what, Mauricio? You know what, Mauricio? We got this comment from Maylink P1. Mauricio brings the heat. Is Mauricio from Miami?
Yes, from Miami.
See, people know.
Born and raised in the county of Dade.
There you go. All right, Brian. This is a great question from Nest Dog, who's been a frequent contributor with questions during our live streams. Actually, a lot of our viewers have been as well. And let me couple that with another question from Smarty Pants 1225. Thank you so much for the super chat question, Smarty Pants 1225. So I'm going to throw two questions to you. They're very similar. Smarty Pants 1225 asks, is it likely RICO and the Mann Act will get revised after this case? You had mentioned it before about what these statutes were traditionally designed for, Brian. Brian, I'm going to throw this one to you. This is what they were originally designed for. Let's start there. And then the next question I have is about racketeering. So let me put Nest Dog's question to the side for a second. Brian, let's stick with this. Smarty Pants 1225, is it likely RICO and the Mann Act will get revised after this case?
I don't think so. I mean, revising a statute involves, cooperation within our government to change the statute. Every single challenge to the constitutionality of the RICO statute has been struck down by the Supreme Court. I'm not aware of any opinions that are up there that would challenge it. If there's a conviction here, they could challenge the use of the racketeering statute and take it all the way to the Supreme Court. But getting legislation like this, a federal statute changed isn't easy. And I don't think one case will do it. And I don't think this would be the case for them to do it.
Let me just go to one more question for you, Brian. This is from Nest Dog, and then we'll hit a break. I believe they got him on prostitution, drugs, and bribery. Isn't that technically RICO?
Yeah, but you got to prove the criminal enterprise, and you got to prove with unanimity those predicate acts. And so, yeah, I mean, I think you've both said it, and I don't disagree with you. If you looked at the definitions themselves and only focused on the definitions, they could check both those boxes and convict him of racketeering in a minute. I just wonder, with all of the consent issues in the case, if they don't just take the easy way out, clip him, on the Mann Act violations, and call it a day. You've got to get a unanimous verdict, and you got to get all 12 people to agree on every predicate act and then on the racketeering enterprise as well. Not easy to do. Although, I will tell you, in racketeering cases, they got about a 90% conviction rate across the country, so they do it.
This case could be an outlier. This case could be different. You said it before, so it's interesting to think about. I'll tell you what, we're going to hit a break. We are officially in verdict watch in the Sean.
Chat, I am too. I have to run. You guys will see me. I already made a new live event. The next time you'll see me will be very shortly. You'll see me with Lauren Conlon. We'll be just kicking it. A little Henny on the rock. And maybe I bring some Ciroc. Should I bring some Ciroc? Nah, that's inappropriate. But yeah, we'll be talking about the case live and in person. She'll give me her overview of being there at the entire trial, and we'll get to really ask questions. I encourage that if you guys have questions, I'm going to have my phone in my hand, and most of my producer will be able to kind of direct it. We're going to be answering most of your questions as towards, when we're getting these updates from these people who are in court. Sometimes we don't get to ask them anything. So, I'm going to try to ask as best everything I need to ask and have a conversation about the case of trial and what's supposed to come with the verdict. And I hope you guys get involved, too. You guys can send in super chats when I go live. All right? So, chat, give me about an hour and some change, and you'll see me back live again looking fresh to motherfucking death with Lauren Conlon. All right?